God, the news has come flying in, hasn't it? I can't keep up. What a show tonight. And I say it every week, but my God, what a show tonight. Where do you start? I mean, let's just remind you some housekeeping. Obviously, you saw our thumbnail, which had to change after that. Our big debate, has the BBC neglected and mismanaged Doctor Who over its 60 years? That is our big debate. We will go to it. But just to remind you tonight, where can we start? Well, we'll start at the very top. Don't you worry. Shouty condemning the celebration of white mediocrity in one of his latest round of interviews. But we've also got the twerking nonsense, the cosmic clothes horse he's become, timeless children, inspiring RTD. It's going to be the backbone of the series. And it goes on and on and on and on and on. You can see there's a lot to cram in, a lot. And we've got the puppets, we've got everything. So buckle in. I hope you're ready. I hope that thread's going to be on fire because I think the panel's going to be on fire. There's plenty to talk about. And I like to think I'm normally measured, but I think tonight in my Sunday sermon, I might slightly lose it tonight because I have to say there's a time and there's a place when people say, no, that's naughty, that's out of order. So please stick with us. So, as I said, housekeeping, welcome to our channel. Welcome to the Sensphere. Welcome here. We've been going for a few months now. You can normally find us at certain times. There you go. We are still aiming to get to around 250 subscribers. With that new, we're still in that fresh territory. Please, we try and make good content. Hopefully you like us and you stick with us. So please, got your cups of tea? Got everything ready? As you know, if anyone watches me, I've got 2 flasks and 2 mugs. Oh, I don't go cheap here. Right, so I need a panel. I need everybody ready. I need charging up because that first news item is just around the corner. So I better start saying hello. So let's go across the board. Oh, I was going to say across the border, across the pond. Michelle, hiya.
Hi.
Well, are you ready for this?
Oh boy, yes I am.
Yeah, I thought you might be. And still across the pond there, hello.
Hey, good morning from California.
This is it, California. Michelle, you're in? Virginia. So this is getting very... I've got to even it up now. John, South Coast, Britain.
Hey, hello from Bournemouth. How you doing?
Hi, John.
That's it.
Hey guys, all right?
And now I'll just knock it in favour of Britain again. Hello, Rachel.
Hello, you're right. I'm alive. I didn't fall off the O2. I made it back.
Yeah, you've been racing around just to get back here. We appreciate that. And of course, he's been in the thread. He's about. Here he is. He's Brandon.
Hey, Brandon.
He's about as American as it gets. I'm in North Carolina, one state below Michelle. And I really like hanging with the Southern English people. The Northern ones are okay, but they're kind of like Americans. They're kind of like Yankees. You know? Just kidding. I love you all. Hello, everyone.
Wow. Right. So, well, I suppose there's an item. Oh, here we go. You see, you can't even start a show. I've got so much to pack in. Who are you? This is, if anyone's not seen our channel before, this is Walkie Stroker, one of the Generation Z. What are you doing here?
Mr. Brandon, do I class as an American or a Briton?
I don't know. Will the Americans own up to that? Honestly, I don't know where he's from.
He seems more Canadian to me.
Is that because I'm woke?
You said it, mate. So,
You said
Mr. Brandon, I
Yes.
just want to know, are you going to show the big budget movie that we worked so hard on doing?
I can't think of any big budget movies I'm aware of. What are you talking about?
Oh, the one we did in Spain, you knucklehead.
That's my partner talking to me. I tell you what, these give an excuse for domestics. So, we did go to Spain. We did go big budget. And yes, when everybody's had their big debate, and as you know, we'll have our puppet 4-minute movie when you can all go to the loo. Is that okay?
Yay.
Right. Well,
It's about time.
well, actually, let's have a sniff. Yeah, you need the loo. Clear off.
Bye all. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Yeah, I don't like you. So here we go then. First news item up on the agenda. Are we warmed up, folks? I'm scripted and ready. Oh my God. I feel like I'm in more danger here than I was in teaching. Right. Okay. So let's start us off with, Shouty has said a lot, hasn't he? I mean, look at this. I mean, he's a clothes. Oh, sorry, that's the wrong slide. Yes, I mean, we could have a clothes malfunction. I know we're going to be talking about twerking.
I've said it before. Don't give them ideas, Brendan.
Wait, is that Brandon and Jamie?
This is the new Cybermen. Yes, that they show a little bit. They've had a bi-generation, and do you like the look of that?
Not really.
It's not really my
Not
cup
fully
of tea.
converted, are they?
They look like rejects of the Rockettes.
I'm sure it's a little more, I don't know, not quite as hot as having the pants on, but it still kind of takes something away from the effect.
This is before Mondas actually succeeded in full conversion, right?
Yeah.
These are Telosians, maybe. I don't know.
This is spare parts in all the right senses. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Exactement. Right then, let's. Well, where can I
One of
go?
my favorite stories.
Ooh.
Oh, dear me. I've even been highlighting like a teacher. My God. So, let's have a look. Calm. First news item before we go to the debate. So, of course, you may have noticed it's been across the media. It's been on Twitter or X. I've seen it everywhere that our great friend Shouty Gatwa has been complaining that there is white mediocrity being celebrated while black people struggle to get half that attention. And if I just go through a little bit more of the item before we start to discuss, of course, he's been talking to Attitude, Entertainment Weekly, RTD's been talking as well. God, he looks like Sam Smith on the right, doesn't he? It's like that dress up for that award ceremony, doesn't he? He looks like Sam Smith.
Looks like something.
Oh, do you know? And so, yeah, this is the kind of the core of one of his interviews. And he mentioned there's so much white mediocrity that gets celebrated, and black people will have to be absolutely flawless to get half of that anyway. And it continued. He says in Attitude, you know, I don't even want to read half these lines out, but everybody can see them. But when he says there's intersections in the country that don't get a chance to exist, I mean, I really will be looking at some of that language and going, really? And then, of course, he goes even further. He has a slag off of the government that we'll look at that later. And then right at the bottom, in yellowy amber, I am not reading that out. We stay high on this channel. And I have to say, there are racial slurs and there are racial slurs. And you'll see at the bottom, he starts his argument. We've got to keep pushing for more, lots and lots and lots of more diversity, lots more inclusion on our screen, lots and lots and lots for all the. Yeah, I know. I'm not going there. 30 years of being a teacher, and I've never used language like that in my life. And the kids were being big bother. I can't believe I'm going there. This is a Doctor Who channel. I want to talk about Doctor Who. We're about 2 weeks away from actually the series starting, and we're talking about this. How excited is everybody about what we are seeing and reading and all the rest?
I'm holding a Star Trek toy for comfort. Sorry, Michelle, go ahead.
We should be talking about how that yesterday at Times Square in New York, they had a Doctor Who on the ticker tape. That is huge. That is what we should be talking about.
Oh, they did? Cool.
Yeah, they did.
Really?
Yeah, and it's on my Twitter. I forwarded it on my Twitter page. They had
Okay,
a big,
yeah, let me go check that.
And they had on Times Square on the ticker tape by the ABC building, which is also owned by Disney. They had scenes of Millie Gibson and Doctor Who, and it's coming soon. It's on the ticker tape. That is what we should be talking about, because that is huge as an American. I shouldn't be talking about Fox News talking about Doctor Who for all the wrong reasons. Now, part of what Gatwa has to say is correct. I'm going to go there, that there is a lot of racism in Hollywood, and that it is hard for certain people to get jobs. But at the same time, he's just gotten the biggest golden ticket in the sandbox, and he should be working through his work. So there's part, and the racial language. If he wouldn't want to be called something, why is he calling somebody else? And I'm sure as a Rwandan Scottish person, he has experienced racism coming into Scotland in the 1990s, and there was lots of controversies over bringing in Rwandan immigrants and migrants who were being persecuted during this time period. So yes, he does have a point, but also at the same time, you know, the way it's being addressed and coming out now may not be the time to talk about it.
No,
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I'll
good point, Michelle. This is probably not a good time to be talking about this. I hadn't read this at all, and this is actually really dismaying. You know, this is not something that I really want to see right now. I just want a new Doctor Who episode on my television. Something
he really went for it, didn't he, Scales? He really went all in.
Well,
he
yeah.
The performance. And show the, because I have seen racist reactions, I've seen homophobic reactions. I've stopped watching certain podcasters because 5 minutes into it has made my skin crawl. So yes, there is legitimate complaints that he has suffered or has experienced.
However, Michelle, he doesn't, and I've gone through all the articles. He doesn't, and some of my family were asking me this, saying, but has he suffered from any racism? I guess he will have, of course I do. However, he didn't cite anything. But I have to say, and I'm keeping the high line, the racial slur he used at the bottom is unjustifiable, especially, well, at any point, and especially 2 weeks before you're launching the series. It's absolutely madness. He's also, this is going to be shown on the BBC as well as Disney. And the BBC is still a public service broadcaster. And you can't be slagging off, apparently, most of the population who are watching. That is absolutely madness. And
people are paying their paycheck.
Well, and this is it. And the other thing is, you can't generalize whether you're talking about one part of a culture, one ethnic minority. I can speak for me. I cannot speak for anybody else. And nobody on any platform can pretend they're speaking for any more than themselves. And you just can't have it. And I'm going to bring in Sean. I think it's Sean, isn't it? Review it yourself. Please check him out. Some great podcasts. He's from my neck of the woods. I tell you what, Brendan, Shouty wants to come to parts of the country where all people of every creed are living in poverty and struggling to feed their families and heat their homes. This is the point. He gets people's backs up with this language. I want to talk about Doctor Who, and we will. By God, will we. But I had to call this out and say, why have you gone there? Rachel, what did you think when you saw this?
Well, wasn't impressed. Let's put it like that. In actual fact, I replied to Brandon's tweet earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah. And needless to say, I'll read out what I said, but needless to say, I wasn't too impressed. It says a lot about playing the race card. By trying to make an equal society, we shouldn't be pointing out the race card. We've come a long way since the days of Rosa and Martin Luther King. However, DEI emphasizes it way too much, particularly being under a company like the Disney and the BBC. And to be honest with you, I think, it's the age of the movie and the TV star and their mysteriousness is certainly long since dead, and this has just confirmed that. Wasn't it better in the days where they weren't really allowed to say anything at all?
Yeah.
I mean, this is not the kind of language that an adult man should be presenting as a child's fictional character. It shouldn't be presenting that type of derogatory language at all. Yes, I'm sure he's experienced racism. I'm sure of that. But you can't, it's like do unto others, isn't it? You can't really do that to to other people just because you've experienced it yourself.
Yeah.
You have to show them how to be better. Well, anyway, I just don't think it's appropriate for someone in the place of the children's show. So,
Shouty is a good actor. I've seen him in Masters of Air. He did a phenomenal performance in Masters of Air for the brief bit that he is in. So he has the ability to wow our pants off or socks off or whatever with his ability to act. And this is just turning people off that we won't be turning on to see what an amazing actor he is.
Well, as hello, Retro Doc, and nice to see you in California too. He says it's not surprising that Shouty is most interested in using the show as a platform for his personal activism. This is one thing I'm going to be noting tonight with RTD in our news later on. They seem to suddenly be using our Doctor Who program as a personal platform to make bigger points, whether I mention Star Beast or Go Forward, whether it's Chris Chibnall in his era. It's starting to worry me. I really do just want Doctor Who back. And I know how easily it could be brought back and be phenomenal. But they seem to insist on going there. John, where do you stand on this one?
Well, from what I've seen so far of him, I see him as a one-note actor as the Doctor. I don't see any Doctor characters about him. I think Rachel was right about the fact that the movie star or the TV star is dead. It also speaks to the demise of the BBC, because back in the day, they would have put a stop to this. They would have basically told them to pull the article. But this is just allowed to carry on. And for me, it's Doctor Who in name only now. It's literally they're creating a show they want, and they're just slapping the Doctor Who logo on it. And we've had nothing discussed or in articles pretty much about where we're going with this series. All it has been for the last few weeks is look at me, look at how bad my life is. But I'll give you another example. A few years ago, they tried this with Star Wars with Moses Ingram, and they had Ewan McGregor doing a little hostage video in his car. It's interesting that if this was flipped the other way, people would be called out, people would be cancelled for doing this sort of stuff.
Yep.
That's where there isn't equality, and that's where I get fed up with it. And I'm out. I've made it clear now. I'm doing it for review purposes because I'm just not invested in this show, because you've got a main character who, for me personally, is dislikable, and I don't want to embrace it.
Can I just show this, John? Because Raymond. Sorry, I come from Shouty's hometown of Dunfermline. Now, I know the area slightly. He hasn't suffered racism up here. Now, I know Raymond. I don't know Shouty personally. I know what you get. I know what you're saying about the area. He went to Glasgow's Conservatoire of Scotland and then worked in Dundee Rep before travelling down to London. I get your point, Raymond. It's just, I suppose we also don't know what he's done face day by day as well. But I do get your point. Go on, Brandon. I know you've seen this. You've discussed it on your thing.
Ask the guy who's from the place that used to have segregation. All right, let me get myself in trouble. Hey,
there goes our time.
Yeah. Hey, John, do you think when Ewan McGregor cut that video that like an anthropomorphic mouse with a gun was just on camera going, say it, But I mean, my feelings on all this is it's getting really tired. I feel like the whole point of being, I mean, I'm not an actor, so no insult to anybody who professionally is. I don't even pretend to be crazy. I just am. But my thing, like when people get so upset, like about a gay person playing a straight person, this person playing that person, voicing a race that you aren't, it's really silly. And it's getting all kind of old. But the thing is, isn't an actor supposed to impress you with the fact that they can be somebody who they're not, that you're going to see at home? Like that's the whole point, is to be able to pretend and take yourself outside and be what you aren't really. It's like there's a YouTuber, Gary Beekler, always says they're adult pretenders. Okay, that's what it is, bro. So I mean, I have respect for it and I enjoy it, and I wish I'd maybe gotten a little into it. But it's just like, it almost seems like they're like, you know what? We've already burned this thing down. Let's just go ahead and go for broke. I mean, because there ain't no reins from him. I mean, you can't. I mean, in a perfect world, somebody's picking up the phone, going, "Hey, shut him up now."
And do you know what? Also, I'd say, Brandon, as well with Shouty, is the fact that old saying, "Pride comes before a fall," and he's almost lifting the trophy before he's even run the race.
He's about to feel the Jody effect here pretty soon.
Yeah,
when he's trying to get a job in a couple of years.
And that's it. You know, if it had been at the end of these stories, of these episodes, and he was saying all this stuff, you'd be hacked off of it. But you'd be like, okay, you've made the series a success. Crack on.
Oh yeah, if it was good,
would like it.
Whatever,
but now he's saying it before any of it's even aired, which is doing brand damage.
Before season 3's even been ordered, there may not be a season 3 after this.
Yeah.
Well,
it's staggering, isn't it?
If I just show you a little bit more. So basically, there's a quote that links to this, but it's just nicely summarized here. The actor argued that immigrants, black and brown people, trans people, queer people are being scapegoated. Now, I had to think about that. So let's have a think. Black and brown people are being scapegoated. At the moment, I'm hearing a lot of discussion about British Empire. I'm hearing a lot of discussion from the BLM during lockdown. I'm hearing a lot of discussion about better representation and DEI. So I'm not quite sure whether scapegoating there's going on, because I think there is a lot more representation going on in the last couple of years. Immigrants are being scapegoated. Is that a kind of dig at Brexit? Well, he's taken on half the country there. Trans people are being scapegoated. Well, has he read the Cass report? Has he read what was actually said in that? Is he aware
He's a
that
parrot, Brendan. He's a parrot repeating what he's been told in the alphabet goblin bubble world.
Can I just say something? By saying all of that, in theory, wouldn't that be making a scapegoat of all of them?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Theoretically.
Technically speaking, yes.
And you see, and he goes on. I mean, you know, trans people are being scapegoated. Well, actually, women have something to say. Gay people have something to say, because that debate is problematic regarding the intersection, as everyone blooming calls it. Queer people, well, I don't include that one because, of course, that's a slur on me, and I've never bought into it. And it tends to be an awful lot of straight people. So basically, my concern here is he's talking about the reason I'm speaking up is because all these people are being scapegoated. I am not aware of where that generalization is coming from.
Brendan, can I just also say, give you an example of Matt Smith. When Matt Smith was cast as the Doctor, you had none of this. All you had was positivity. He'd researched the stories. He was looking forward to playing the role. Really excited to get it going. You know, I'm paraphrasing, but that's what we got. Now, you don't get any of that, do you? You do not get any of it. And how are parents, especially when they've got kids that are wanting to watch it, how are the parents going to be able to think, oh, hang on a minute, I'm not sure I can trust my kids to be able to watch this, because if he's saying this before it's aired, what's going to be in the stories?
It's a good point.
And the other thing is, right, you're 2 weeks away from the new series, so you know you can't give away secrets about the plot, but you can kind of give teasers. You can say various things and say, oh, there's a moment there's an explosion in the TARDIS, and you start to give little reveals, and you get us all excited and salivating as Doctor Who fans. But it seems to me either there's not much in the series to talk about, or it's so top secret he can't say a word. So in another way, all he's left with is all this stuff.
Yeah.
Or he has been told to talk about it.
Well, there you go.
It's almost as if this was, it does seem like he's been told to talk about this, because I never saw any of this until just now. I guess I wasn't online enough yesterday to
I was
cop
working
this.
yesterday, so I missed this all too.
Yeah, very serious.
It's very dismaying, and I think he really needs to shut up. And my impression is that this feels like it was written by Russell Davies.
Well, it certainly sounds as though there's an echo chamber there. I agree with that. And don't worry, everybody who's listening says we are getting to Doctor Who. Don't you worry. There's our big debate there. I've not forgotten. Has the BBC neglected and mismanaged Doctor Who over the 60 years, or has it actually made some successes? And of course, there's an awful lot of other news items we will be looking at, and there's still some very tasty ones there. So please don't go away. But we're not finished, Greg. I have to say there was more. Let me just show you.
Not more. Not more. Please, no.
I mean, like, this isn't like having one foot in the grave. He already got into some bitch and put the dirt on him. You know what I mean? Like, how can he go any further?
That one foot in the grave is funny.
This is one foot in the grave and the other perched on a banana peel.
No kidding. Yeah.
So he went on about hate. Okay. And look, and this is where I always will try, as an ex-teacher, try and be sympathetic. So he said, it's not something I'll avidly keep up on, the hate. It's a kind of fascinating to me because there's so much energy they're putting into it. I think they need to go and find a hobby is one thing. And then he moves on to saying, we do see a shift happening in casting, in positions of power and in the status quo. It could happen a little bit quicker. But you do see people kind of malfunctioning because things are changing. But can I just say, before I open up to the panel again, I think he's getting the wrong end of the stick. You're the lead actor in the job, and you're told that there are critics of the program, and you immediately jump to thinking it's about race when it's not. It's about whether it's shoddy, badly written, is doing the wrong stuff. Every Doctor Who fan I talk to is talking about that sort of thing, and I have not heard one person talk about him, his colour. None of it.
Okay.
Nobody cares. We've got
No.
Idris Elba. We've got some great actors out there. We're not interested.
Well, do you remember it when Eccleston was going and Patterson Joseph was linked to the role?
Yes. Yes.
Nobody cared about race or skin color because he was a fantastic actor and people were excited for him to potentially take on the role of the Doctor. Now, I couldn't care less about this guy because they're like a dime a dozen, really. You know, you could swap him out, have someone else come in to replace him.
Say
and
the
he'd do the
exact same
same-
stuff in interviews, John.
Exactly. And, you know, this isn't just Doctor Who, is it? This is your Star Treks, your Star Wars. We've talked about this before. They're doing this in everything. And it's a case of, you've got to see us, and we've got to talk so you can hear us as well. Well, we're a bit fed up of hearing about you for now on. How about you do the job and then just we'll reward you if it's great. We'll praise you. We'll clap. You'll say, well done, you did a blinder there. But if it's not, we'll be critical. But we won't be a hateful critical. We will just speak our opinions on a show that we don't think is performing. That's the difference. And these people see us as haters. We're not haters. We all want the show to work, but these people continually push it as you're a racist or you're a phobe if you don't agree with the direction they're taking the show.
Well,
in.
Rachel, isn't this great? As an actress, this is how you deal with the critics. You tell them to get a hobby and clear off. He's talking about hate when I actually, as John's saying, it's people criticizing a program that was on its backside under Chibnall and was struggling to get ratings. And everybody wants it to do well, and then we do issues about pronouns and all the rest of it. So basically, people are a bit upset, and it's got nothing to do with Shooty's casting. So he has a go at us lot, and he says, "Get a hobby," and he's basically an actor telling the viewers, the critics, to get a hobby.
Yeah.
Wow, that's how you should deal with it.
And that's not appropriate. You see, one of the biggest mistakes that actors can do, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, is actually read what the critics say.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the biggest mistakes. It's better to hear it coming from your boss, which would be the producer or the director. It's better to hear it from them as a collective whole rather than going in and wading into the war and reading what everyone has to say. And in actual fact, it doesn't do your mental health any good because there are going to be people that will hate it. There's going to be people that love it. And there are going to be people that sit in between. And I never read reviews.
Rachel, would you say, like, I mean, I don't know. I'm sure there's been some other excuses people could use, like, throughout time.
Yeah.
But, like, of all the history of, like, creative people writing, all that, all the way back to Virgil and the Aeneid and everything, they've never had as good an excuse for putting out crap as to say, like, because when we think about it, now they have break glass in case what I wrote sucked. You're racist. You know what I'm saying? You're homophobic. I mean, it's like been the greatest. They figured out this is the best out. If we put out something that sucks, we just make the star a black gay guy. Then we'll tell everybody. I mean, that's what it feels like to me anyway. And now they got a great excuse.
Well, here's the thing. Shooty is definitely right about one thing. Casting has definitely changed. I mean, you saw that message that I sent to you. And it was all to do with the casting breakdown. And obviously I didn't send you the casting breakdown details, but I showed you like how they actually list the breakdown. And that's all been within the last year and a half. That has all changed in the last year and a half. It never used to be like that. I barely get into an audition room now anymore because it's such an upheaval in the status quo, I guess you could say. And it doesn't feel great. I'm not gonna lie, it doesn't feel great.
Yeah, I mean, it's the first time in your life where you go, "Wow, it's kind of different being whitey now, ain't it?" Yeah, you know what I mean. It's like you got a target on your back now.
So
Rachel, what about the other thing? Sorry, Rachel. What about the other thing? he's actually implying that you have had it all so good for too long because you've all been mediocre, getting work, and now you're just not getting it. He is making himself out to be, because he says to be black as an actor, you have to be flawless. In other words,
No.
indirectly, he's actually bigging himself up and knocking all of you down. He's
saying we. He's also using the word we without citing anyone else.
And also going, you know, what Timescales was just saying there is absolutely right, because it wasn't a few months ago that he did an interview in a magazine and he said RTD called him into the office and reprimanded him about something he said or did.
Yes.
So why isn't he not being So why isn't he being reprimanded now? Interesting,
because
isn't it?
He's a puppet. Because he's an RTD puppet is exactly what it is.
It all comes down to DEI. I tell you something. Sorry, Michelle. One thing that really irritated me when all of this was going on, you know, when the upheaval in casting was happening, a certain, I'm not going to name it, but a certain web CV website, one of them decided to remove everyone's gender to not offend anyone. And it's like, what the hell are you doing? You didn't ask me. You didn't ask me.
Yeah.
What about me? You know? And it just got right on my wick. Sorry, Michelle.
I mean, again, and to be fair on his comment about, you know, being a black actor, there is racism in the industry, especially in Hollywood. I mean, watch the documentary that's being big here in the United States, Quiet on the Set, about what children in Nickelodeon and African American black actors and actresses, and how their roles were written and how they were treated as just like the token character and doing racist jokes and racist things. So yes, there is a history of this, and he probably has experienced this in his career. But again, he's throwing everybody out as the racist. He's making the blanket statements, and then when he's using a racial slur on white people or another group, that's like the pot calling the kettle black. What is that's two wrongs don't make it right.
And also when you get into this progressive mess, you've got to be so careful.
Yeah. We
will mention the twerking later. Archer Collin asked, because he's come from Rabbi's channel, who's recommended us. Hello, Archer Collin, and thank you, Rabbi. The twerking and the clothes horse nature of it is going to be mentioned later. But while I just mention that for a second, while you're going big on racism, while you're going big on diversity and inclusion, as a gay man, I really do not want an openly gay doctor to be twerking and objectifying himself and maybe coming across as predatory with certain male characters in certain stories. I actually find that a slur on being gay because it's making the wrong associations. I find that very problematic while he's trying to score a goal on race. You can't win there and lose there. I'd rather you shut up.
I agree. They're lumping people into those kind of groups, and the thing of it is like you might just be like, "Hey, I'm not part of like the straight community. I'm just a straight guy." You know what I mean? Like you just want to be a person. I don't have to be a part of these groups, bro.
The thing is, at the end of the day, society is trying to work on it. It's not perfect, but you don't need to be drawing attention to it even more, particularly in the entertainment industry, where you're the face of a show. And you could essentially be the fall guy for anything that goes wrong with this show.
And he's already been made the fall guy a couple of areas. He wasn't given a proper regeneration episode, which is unfair to him.
Oh, that was.
They should have sent Millie out to do all this.
You know, there's a lot of things for him in his role has been rough, and I have accepted him as the Doctor since the minute he was announced as the Doctor. So to say all fans are X, Y, and Z, I have embraced you and yes, I have seen prejudice on his sexuality on very popular podcasts. There was one I watched for about 10 minutes and I had to shut it off. I mean, and I've seen there have been. So, you know, podcasting and fandom has not been angels during this either.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the difference here at the moment, I agree with you on that, Michelle, but I think this is him actually going on the offensive and he's attacking people, and he's effectively, like we were saying before, we got 2 weeks before the show airs and he's literally just, going scorched earth, isn't he? In a few years' time, I mean, he's going to be a victim of this as well if someone's telling him to do this stuff, because when it fails and his ego gets hit, that's going to impact him quite badly.
Well,
and it's also going to be bad when, for the next few years, he's doing school plays.
Well, if you see, I mean, this is what I mean. I try and be very empathetic and sympathetic to what's being said. And in part of the Attitude interview, he does talk about suffering from internalized homophobia. And I understand that. I think a lot of gay people, you almost hate yourself because you've become part of what some of society thinks. And he said he's had therapy for this. And I'm sorry, but that's a shame. And so it's a shame that in one hand you think, oh, look, I hope you haven't faced that. I hope you were better. But then I also then cynically start falling into the Prince Harry trap, which is Prince Harry has needed therapy and he just seems to slag off Britain and slag off everybody and the press and everything. And you think, look, you've had a hard time. I get that there. Why go so strong and provocative and aggressive and divisive?
Yeah, and why now? Why right before the episodes air? If Shouty Gatwa is gay, I've just learned it today, because I really don't care, and this is really not something that I want to be reading before watching the new episodes. Why now?
Exactly.
He's never really said specifically, and I could care less. I really don't care about his private life. Do whatever you want.
I don't care what he does in his private life whatsoever. I just want to see new Doctor Who that is actually real, authentic Doctor Who with a good story and good acting and good music. And
100%.
I'm shocked. So he's gay. So what? Well, tell it to somebody else. I don't want to hear that.
Yeah, and I've said this before as well. You contrast that to Tom Baker. Tom Baker famously refused to smoke in front of kids.
Oh, he used to smoke?
He portrayed, but he didn't in front of kids, because he said, when I'm in front of kids, I'm the doctor. They see me as the doctor, and that's
right.
that was a great thing that he did. You contrast that to now, these people don't care about it, and my view is that they don't care about Doctor Who. They're using Doctor Who as a vehicle for their own careers, and saying the right things now. They think, this will get me into that production or this production after Doctor Who has collapsed and has fallen. That's what this is. He's trying to get on in the industry, in my opinion, with these comments.
Things change. Right, okay, let's kind of shift policy slightly, because this is only the opening gambit, my God. So let me kind of set the ground rules again. It is Sunday after all, so here we go. Yeah, well, I just need to set the tone. It can get a bit angry when we get actors saying certain things like that. So, Sensesphere. We call ourselves a Sensesphere, not just after the Sensorite program. We aim to be wise, thoughtful, reflective, above the fray if we can. Michelle Obama said, go high. But the barrage of news, the venom and the bile in some of these statements has triggered me somewhat. I'm holding on like this. Is this the Chibnall and Geordie era part 2? I hope not. The white male prism, we're all in trouble again, that it's not aimed at us. We need to go and find out another kind of, franchise to watch. We were told that before. Those fans who saw it through the hiatus, though, from 1989 to 1996, who eventually made the BBC realise I had a hit, they're attacking us again. Do you just walk away from this hate to this abuse? Like John said earlier, do we just walk away now? Is it that point? If the BBC don't want us, who do they have left? Sometimes you have to come down to the trenches and get involved in this fight. I've tried to stay above the fray, but I have to say, I am angered by what I'm seeing from my favourite programme and an actor I was willing on. I liked him in Sex Education. I thought he was really good. I can believe he's got loads of charisma. But why do this? And why do this now? And as a gay man talking to a gay man, let's not use that as our label. Take the label away and just act your socks off. We're passionate about Doctor Who.
I mean, Brendan.
Yes.
When you were saying about the Jodie Whittaker era, now it is a carbon copy, because when you looked at the Jodie Whittaker era, they did similar things where they were doing interviews with her, reading out, people didn't agree with female Doctor, and she was doing cocky remarks back, and then you had the glass ceiling breaking and the cocky videos, and they're just doing exactly the same again. They've not learnt their lessons from last time, and I've said it before, pride comes before a fall, but the trouble is the people that are involved in it, there's no consequences for them. That's the trouble.
Well, I'm going to try. I'm going to keep trying. I think this channel's pretty good at this. So our main item, and just to remind you, we are going to come back to the news, and there's a lot there. You can see we've been asked about the twerking. We will go there. Him becoming a cosmic clothes horse. RTD saying the Timeless Children is inspiring him to create a whole backbone to the new series, that we're going to pause the Daleks, but Shouty would be angry without the Daleks. And then, of course, attacking the government, which seems to be everybody at the moment. And, of course, RTD and Shouty join in as well with a family show. So I want to be fair. So when we start this opening debate about the BBC and whether they've been neglectful in our courtroom, here we go. The two charges, there they are: mismanagement of Doctor Who, and the second one, neglect of the Doctor Who franchise over 60 years. So my panelists will pick their key pieces of evidence in their indictment charges. I want to be very clear on this one, and it's actually something that Russell Davies said the other day, so I wouldn't think we're not on the news anymore. You know, when he made that reference to he wants to be like Stranger Things and he wants to be like Star Trek. Well, actually, sorry, Stranger Things, yes. He was actually citing the BBC, who he said sprung a trap on him. So if I just made this very clear, he said his initial idea was just to write a few specials for Donna and the Tenant Doctor. He said, and suddenly he went to a Zoom meeting and there were loads of executives there, important high-ranking executives he didn't expect. And he calls that a little springing of a trap. And he says, we think it's a good, they said to him, we think Doctor Who is good enough and we believe in the show to know that it can have that heft, weight and swagger. And he said, as a lifelong Whovian, it was music to his ears. And he had swirling new stories in his head, thinking of what monsters he can use with the budget now. And, you know, he thought, right, I'm up for it. So, you know, there's an example of the BBC believing in Doctor Who. And that's from now. They think it can take on the Star Trek franchise. They think it can be up there with Stranger Things. So before I really kick in BBC with an example, come on, panel, let's be fair. The BBC think they can take the world with Doctor Who.
Well, I said this the other day. You know, it's quite easy to leapfrog Star Trek and Marvel because they're both in the toilet at the moment anyway. So that's easy to do. I think they're still chasing this imaginary audience though that doesn't exist. That's the problem. Until they realise that, they're not going to fix their problems.
A year ago, I would have agreed with this, but stuff like what we've seen for the promotion for the new season, my optimism is going down faster than a thermostat.
And in a cost of living crisis, you don't want that. So, Rachel, come on. Well, aren't you excited that the BBC believes in its own programme?
Well, I like the enthusiasm.
You sound like you're a teacher. You sound
Yeah.
Well, I was a former
You were,
I'm a
yeah.
former teacher and teaching assistant. Yeah, I like the enthusiasm. Is it paying off? I don't think it is at the moment. I think there's a
Maybe.
lot of things going on that need to be sort of nipped in the bud.
Mm.
Yeah.
Brandon, Star Trek.
The publicity department.
Brandon, Star Trek and Stranger Things. The BBC think they can take them on. This is brilliant. Global domination of Doctor Who.
If that was true, I would have been in Doctor Who. I mean, like, it's no insult, but I mean, it's a quintessentially British thing, and it's fairly niche. I mean, I don't know. I think it takes a particular type of person to like it. Maybe it just takes nuts like all of us, you know. But I think they picked the wrong thing. Now, don't get me wrong. Is there a potential scenario in the multiverse where Doctor Who could become a bigger worldwide hit than it's ever been? Yes, but not like this. That's just the opposite. You're going to drive it all the way back to England and then smaller and smaller till there's no audience left.
That would have been called the 8th Doctor Adventures.
Yeah.
They had their chance in the Matt Smith era, and ever since
and blew
that was okay. Ever Disney came on in the Matt Smith era and the 50s lead up, that was the era for it to be the big wide smash, and they didn't take it in that.
That's when I started watching.
Yeah, and you know, we don't like Doctor Who because it's popular. It's kind of cool that we like something that's a little bit different, and it's not like Star Wars or Star Trek. I don't like Star Wars or Star Trek. I don't watch Stranger Things. I watch Doctor Who.
Yeah, and can I just say something before, obviously, coming in? I've said this a while now, and when Verity Lambert and Sydney Newman started this whole process off, Verity Lambert, Delia Derbyshire, Boris Hussein, they pioneered ways of making Doctor Who and TV in the early 60s, the music and everything. They pioneered it. They were copying nobody. And why is it that writers of the top quality now say we have to copy Stranger Things, say we have to copy Buffy, say we have to copy Doctor Who, as you've just said, Brandon, is quintessentially British. It's very unique as a franchise. And, you know, it's dangerous to copy it. John mentioned before Primeval, you know, it's hard to copy Doctor Who and win. It is so unique. Why is RTD? Why are they so obsessed with copying somebody else? Because you know what happens if you copy somebody else, you're normally the cheap imitation. You're never as good. And if it's obvious you're copying something else, then the other show will just be, you know, kind of valued even more. Doctor Who, by the way, finishing my point, have you heard any program makers around the world saying they're copying Doctor Who? I mean, why are we copying others suddenly? Where's the pioneers? Where's the risk takers?
I think
Doctor Who doesn't have to copy Star Trek. Star Trek didn't even come out until 3 years later. So it doesn't. Doctor Who was first, and it should be pioneering, and it shouldn't be copying something else. It shouldn't have to equate it. Right.
Maybe it's an investment commodity mentality, like what John's saying, where they just want their multiverse, their universe, and all that. And so basically, the suits, they just see it in the boardroom as it's just a commodity, something they can invest in to maybe get a similar return. And then it's a really kind of low level. I mean, it's almost like banker mentality, man. This isn't like creative mentality. This is, hey, Marvel did this way, they made money. So let's take Doctor Who, let's add these elements to it. And they also have the imaginary audience that they think's out there too. So I mean, they kind of shoot themselves in both feet.
Also, if they tried to copy Doctor Who, that would stick out like a sore thumb.
Very
because it would be very obvious. I mean,
I can only think of one example.
You could have one of the best story plot devices ever, which was regeneration until they screwed it up, and then you have one of the worst ones ever, which was the sonic screwdriver, which they only ever got rid of like once. But there you go.
I could argue that they're actually copying Doctor Who right now.
Oh, really? I don't know.
I mean, as in the production team at the moment are doing a a cheap copy of what Doctor Who was.
Oh,
So,
yeah. Okay, yeah. I get
No, that's
it.
just corpse reanimation, man.
I've been thinking with some of the specials that I've seen, and some of the clips that I've seen, that RTD has been copying himself.
Yeah,
as well.
Yes. And so that's me being fair, and actually not to kind of say there's my token fairness. I have to say, credit to the BBC if they really believe that, but they need to keep an eye on their showrunner. And remember, we did do a recent show, and it was only last Sunday, wasn't it, when we actually discussed the problems with that, which is best for Doctor Who? Is it showrunner or producer? Please take a look at that if you've just discovered us today, because we really do go into the details there. Now, keep an eye on your showrunner to protect your BBC franchise that you now believe in. But the other thing I wanted to say is, she should be given a damehood if she hasn't got one already. You all know who she is?
No.
She saved Doctor Who. In 2004, Lorraine Heggessy, controller of BBC One, she's the one who asked all the executives to sort out the rights with Fox, to get the rights back fully with the BBC, and to relaunch Doctor Who. This is the lady who was obviously on the BBC payroll who actually brought it back. And it was her belief that brought it back. So again, I have to be fair to the BBC. There are individuals in the BBC who actually saw the possibilities. And
is she still alive?
Yeah.
and sadly, I think they're repeating history now with their deal with Disney that they did with Fox. I think it's going to take them a few years when they decide to get everything back, regardless of what rumors you hear. I think they could have a tough time, disconnecting from Disney, and it's a shame. But yeah, fair play to her because she brought it back.
They got it back because Fox didn't want it. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, Fox had wanted it, they would have probably been difficult. Disney could be similar, but hopefully, if they've got any sort of brains, they've worked out some sort of deal that where their collab ends, maybe the rights. I mean, I'm sure they've worked out distribution, all this different stuff for over here, but I'm just hoping they haven't actually sold any of the actual property to Disney. I hope not, anyway.
So I've been fair, and I don't want to dominate the show because I've got a lovely panel here with lots of ideas, and I'm sure in the thread there's a lot more ideas on this very, very key topic. Has the BBC neglected and mismanaged Doctor Who over the years? So give us your ideas in the thread, and I'll bring them in when possible. So who would like to be starting on the indictments against the BBC? There they are. Who would like to start? John, I reckon you've got one, have you?
Yeah,
get the wig, the white wig, and the black robes out. Oh, here.
It's on order, mate. It's on order. Well, I've got a few. I think for me, and we've talked about it all evening, but for me, I would argue now that the current era is the worst that it's been on the mismanagement and the neglect of Doctor Who by the BBC. Because of what they're doing, and I think with their the Equality Commission that they did in 2015, that was slow to start with, but now it's just everywhere, and it's just all in the show completely now, and it's changed everything. I think that's where we are now. It's really a shame. I would also say that the people, I would say the wilderness years where they didn't realize what they had. So it took a long time for it to come back. Even though people were still buying the audios and buying the books and the merchandise, it was still going strong. And then I would also sort of say late 80s when they just didn't know what the show was. They were putting it up against Coronation Street. They wanted to get it cancelled by putting it up against that giant, and they were reducing the budget time and time again, and there was only one way it was going to go. So the BBC have never until until 2005 realised what a big cash cow they had with Doctor Who, and there's quite a few examples throughout the history, isn't there?
Well, let's take a few of them, and as a panel, to be fair, because the point is, that's your opinion. We test it out. I'm saying, has the BBC mismanaged? It may be individuals. It may be a certain executive, like Michael Grade, of course, who I'm sure we'll come to later. Lorraine Heggessy on the positive side. So, sometimes it's down to individuals who run the channel, isn't it? Sometimes it's down to an individual showrunner. Sometimes it's just an individual in there. So. When
I don't, Brendan, I don't really want to parrot John here, but I absolutely totally agree with what he just said. And that is going into my 3 or 4 indictments of Doctor Who. The first one is going to be the failure of the preservation of it with the missing episodes. I think that right there is the number one failure that has ever happened to Doctor Who, and not just Doctor Who. It was other British programs such as Z Cars, which I think every single episode of it was deleted. So that would be the number one failure right there. That's my main indictment.
So Greg, don't worry. I'll come back to you. Don't worry. I'm not interrupting to take it away from you. On this one, I listed this one as well, and I'm sure people in the thread, we all know there's a missing Doctor Who episodes. Is this just because Doctor Who's been around almost from the beginning of TV, that the longevity of it has actually surprised everybody? And in retrospect, the missing episodes is a killer and is almost criminal. But at the time, they were just a raising to reuse them, weren't they? And
like a magazine, man, you throw it away after you've read it. It's like comic books. People used to throw them away. They didn't know it'd be worth $1 million,
Yeah, there's an element, so I agree with you, Greg. On paper, you think, oh God, and you on your channel, you've interviewed Ian Levine, who notoriously have saved the Dalek can from being,
that he did.
Yeah.
But is it just retrospect that we're actually saying, BBC, you were so neglectful? Well, actually, maybe the BBC were just doing what everybody was doing. They thought TV was just growing and evolving. Nobody really knew we were going to have iconic series that everybody would want to go back to. I mean, in a way, the Doctor Who is the first BBC classic with a fan base that's strong and iconic and cult, isn't it? Really, and
they're synonymous. BBC, Doctor Who, for me as an American, are synonymous.
But at the same time, this is a BBC issue, because in the United States, we have all the Honeymooners. We have all I Love Lucy. We have all Annie Griffith Show. We are missing some very early shows from the late 40s to 50s when TV was not. But in this era, they were saving them because they replayed them, which the BBC never did.
Yeah.
American TV, we replayed them in the summer era, and we also gave the actors who came through the Honeymooners was the idea of royalties, because one of the actors' brothers was a lawyer and said, if they're replaying this, you should be paid for every time it's being replayed.
And so we have a wider area.
Michelle just nailed it, and Brendan, you said that we and don't include us Americans, because we weren't destroying our recordings. That's a BBC thing.
Oh, you had to go low, didn't you?
You had to go low. And is a decade older than the Doctor Who.
And there you have it. That's why we have 3 Americans on and 3 Brits. It'll be a panel of 3 in a minute. So, but the truth is, maybe the BBC were victim of being a public service broadcaster. And actually, there was a rule that they couldn't show many repeats anyway in early years, believe it or not. Yes. In the early days, they couldn't show lots of repeats. And so actually, what was the point of keeping all these Doctor Who episodes? And so I understand what you're saying in America about I Love Lucy, and you could repeat, but the BBC couldn't.
See, public
that kind of makes it make sense.
Well, that's their problem.
Should be the consumer should be funded. The consumer should be funding your broadcasting, not a state-run entity, and that's the American.
Right. And how can a consumer actually fund something if they're not even allowed to buy it? You know,
They're
take
staying
take
in.
us in America here, for example,
You saw,
with
you
the
saw,
Doctor Who Unleashed. It's only on iPlayer. So we have to do something illegal or be a hacker and use a VPN to be able to watch this. Why can't we just buy it? If we can't buy it, that's a problem.
I mean, I thought you were going to, Greg, you might as well. You've interviewed him. Ian Levine, the Daleks there. He has skin in the game. He's also been trying to kind of bring back the Daleks master plan, hasn't he?
Yeah,
Ian
yeah,
Levine,
he's
saint
doing
of
a great
nerds.
job at it. You know, this guy right here, I've been watching him for over 20 years on social media, and he has some people that, if no one's noticed, that don't really care for him. And it's because of the way he communicates. He's very extremely blunt, and he gets right to the point. And for me, that is totally perfectly fine. But the thing with Ian is that he is a collector and he's a completionist, and he has a lifelong anger about the fact that BBC deleted so many of these episodes. He's over 70 years old now, and he wants Doctor Who to be complete, and that's what he's trying to do. And I get it. You know, I respect the guy. I'm glad that I got to be friends with him.
Dude.
You know, it took 20 years to be able to talk to him and do the most comprehensive interview of him ever in his lifetime. And he admitted that. And I'm honored to have been able to do that. But the bottom line is what people need to realize about him is that he is a completionist, and he's angry about the fact that BBC deleted all of these episodes, and he saved a lot of them for us. So people need to be grateful to him. He needs to be treated with respect.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he took like something like OCD or autism and weaponized it and made it like to all our benefit. Hey, last thing on him, I just wanted to say, Ian Levine is the only person I think known, period. He from 1935 to 2004, he had every DC comic they put out. Period, bro.
Yeah.
And that's a ton. And he's English. You guys couldn't even find that stuff. So I mean, like, he's somebody go look. If you need to go watch that interview when this is over, go watch it on Greg's channel, man. He's a real interesting guy. I didn't know a lot about him until Greg's interview, and I started looking him up and stuff. So interesting cat.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, he's cool.
And as I know, Michelle, you loved it, that picture. I mean,
I do. I just love the way he's cuddling her because it would change our idea of how we view the first Doctor if we had that episode too.
And that's the kind of neglect. It's easy for me to say, I suppose, but the BBC, there's 90 odd episodes missing, and the Marco Polo, Dalek's Master Plan are some of those that we really are desperately wishing we could find. And look at these sumptuous pictures.
Mm-hmm.
And is all of Marco Polo missing? Every episode of the serial?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's gone. It's never going to be seen again.
And for those who are, watching this, my comment in the private chat was, I just love the way the first Doctor is cuddling Susan with his arms around her like a grandfather. And again, we get this idea, and also it's through the David Bradley portrayal of the first Doctor being this very cold and aloof character, because we see it in the first episodes, but we're missing Marco Polo, and we're missing how he's sitting there and she's leaning back cuddling with him. That completely changes how we view his personality.
Interesting. Interesting.
I mean, I can't. With Ian Levine, I cannot understand how people are criticizing him at the moment for trying to create missing episodes. Essentially,
nobody respects their elders anymore, Johnny.
Yeah,
I mean, honestly,
he has opinions on certain things that are now taboo. So again, you don't agree with the mob 100%, you then become the victim of the mob. Look what happened to Georgia Tennant. She didn't 100% agree that certain groups should have, that certain groups gasp have a right to live, and she got chased off of Twitter by her followers.
So while I'm noting down everybody in the thread before we go to another item, it's up to the panel what they pick as their examples. But basically, we've got indictment charges against the BBC on this one. And yes, we will come to the news later, reminding you of that. But mismanagement of Doctor Who and neglect of Doctor Who over the 60 years. You've heard an example, the missing episodes. We're not going to get them back. The missing episodes. for good or bad, mistake or not. Rachel,
Can I just add to the missing episodes thing, please?
Yeah.
I'm surprised that the BBC haven't at least tried to dig out the script or find the script from, you know, all the children that recorded it when they were younger, and got the willing actor of David Bradley to actually come in with other actors and reshoot it.
Oh, that's kind of interesting. That's outside
That can
the
be
box.
done.
I wouldn't think...
That can be
It
done.
can be done.
It can be done. In fact, it can be done by somebody that I actually interviewed, Andrew Ireland, that recreated one of the missing episodes at a university there in England.
Exactly.
He told me all it would take is 10 weeks of filming, and Marco Polo can be redone in live action.
Yeah, exactly.
That is a quote directly from him.
Yeah, you've got David Bradley, who's very good as the first Doctor, and then there's
Stephen Noonan as well, with Big Finish.
Yeah.
The ones that got recast in Big Finish as William and as Chesterton.
They were in the Adventure in Time and Space as well, weren't they? Yeah.
They're actually actors as well, so they could come in and actually just do it. I'm sure they would.
Would you buy into that though? As in, I know there's the completionist argument, but then there's the argument don't reinvent some. I mean, Marco Polo, Ian Levine, as you know, when you've interviewed him, he talks about watching it and he goes mad if with some of these animations they completely change it. He wants it as it was, and so I agree that you could try and reconstruct it a bit like the Mission to the Unknown with that university did it, and I loved that one.
Yes.
But I think some fans also say that's sacrilege. You cannot do that. I don't know. It's one of those, isn't it?
I think you could try and reconstruct it as accurately as possible. I certainly buy into that. Or do it as an audio drama. But there you go.
Well, again, sadly,
have to change parts for that.
Sadly, you've got them now. They seem to think instead of trying to complete what is outstanding, let's try and colorize what we've got. And it's like, well, no, try and complete first, then colorize. You know, that's how you do it.
Yeah.
And as good old Retro Doctor said, I'm an English teacher. I should have picked up on this. Yes, we're saying missing. They're gone, aren't they? I mean, it's
technically possible, but
the rumor is that there are 3 surviving, 3 episodes, not serials, just half-hour episodes that are in private collections, and they will never see the light of day.
I bet.
The people have them delight in the fact that they are.
Yeah.
And also they're afraid of coming back, BBC getting in trouble, and likely they will be destroyed when they pass away.
And one of our favorite stories, The City of Death, was all about that you could have 7 or 8 Mona Lisas, but nobody would dare show off, so everybody's got it separately. You know, it's like that's the scam.
Hey guys, quick funny, my wife walked in and I was listening to a Big Finish audio, and now bear in mind this lady has a huge TARDIS tattooed on her arm, right? And she looks at me and she goes, do you ever watch anything else? And I'm like, no, man. I mean, like, I have to go to university in my, to the Doctor Who University to fill in some gaps and stuff. I'm like, no, I just like it,
To be fair to your channel and Culture Council, you do discuss an awful lot of other stuff other than Doctor Who, don't you? You do.
Yes, a lot of offensive things that we discuss, but yeah, it's welcome for everybody, no matter who you vote for. I really don't care. Just come and get on the discussion. We might learn something from each other and have fun.
So
Brent,
yes.
What were you going to ask me?
I was going to ask you for your charge. Example. Yes.
Well. Here's my favorite. The unceremonious firing of Colin Baker. Oh yeah.
I side with Rachel a lot because I'm pretty partial. I like the 6th Doctor too.
Yeah,
he is my favorite.
I mean, Big Finish really did a good job with really improving the character.
Doing some
so
justice.
go on then, Rachel. You set out your argument. Where were the BBC neglectful on mismanaging of this situation?
Well, I'm gonna shout about it, not chat about it. No.
Here we go.
I have a whole list. Obviously, I sent that in that email to you, and that video. well, we've got Michael Grade, and we've got J&T, and then there's Brian Blessed, and then obviously we've got Colin. There's the audience, there's the press, there's all sorts of things that went on behind the scenes that were just awful, and it just essentially led to Colin being the hitman for it. Would you like me to go into details?
Of course, because every Doctor Who fan worth their salt.
Go on, Rachel, go on.
And know the headline. Go on,
go.
Okay.
Over the phone.
As an actress as well, I think it's interesting. This, so go on, you elaborate.
Okay, and I will actually talk about how this could have actually impacted Colin's career. Okay, so Michael Grade. Okay, so he was the BBC controller, and he said it was outdated, didn't he? And he also said it was violent, but I don't think personally it was any more violent than the John Pertwee era. I think it was about the same, give or take here or there. And Michael Grade allowed Colin to be fired by J&T because of the falling in ratings. He thought that justified the firing of Colin. Now, obviously, I don't know what Colin's contract said. I don't know any of that. But here's the thing. Apparently, Michael Grade was friends with Colin's ex-wife, best friends.
Yep.
And there were suggestions of romance. So there was a bit of a, bit saucy, apparently.
Alleged.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I'm being careful there.
Easier in your country than mine, and that's saying something.
Yeah. And Gary Downey alleges or confirms, as some people have said, that Michael Grade apparently didn't want Colin working for the BBC and had a grudge against Colin. And also, he described Colin's performance as god-awful and utterly unlikable. So that's Michael Grade. So that's very much clearly not in the ballpark for Colin there. And of course, then you've got J&T. Now, J&T deliberately cast Colin as an opposite to what's his name? Peter Davison. Sorry, I couldn't remember his name there. He wanted to do a complete contrast because it would be similar to Tom, and it was a deliberate opposite, purposefully. I say he's more like Pat Troughton, but similar to Tom. That's what he said. But that led to putting the twin dilemma after Caves of Androzani, which was a mistake on J&T's part because of the complete contrast and also that blimming coat, which I really do want as a cosplay coat, but it's awful. And he also slightly blames his choice in costume, but he also says that Colin had a rough ride, year on, year off, year on, and then fired. And J&T, believe it or not, this is what J&T said. He had to fire Colin because he was told to by the higher ups, but he did it on the sole proviso that he was also leaving at the same time as Colin. So he was going to be stepping down as producer, and he was scheduled to go out on Panto tour with Colin, but then was pulled back in by Michael Grade to run the Sylvester McCoy series. And here's another thing that I think people don't actually know, but Colin said that Sylvester McCoy got to actually talk about his character to the writers a lot, whereas Colin didn't get an opportunity to do that. Brian Blessed, good old Brian, loud Brian, suggested that actually Colin should have been pushed in a more definite direction by J&T, but he also praised Colin's versatility, and he actually thought that Colin was under pressure from the higher ups. Now, with the audience were an interesting one because at the time the audience blamed Colin for everything that went on, but over time, as things went on, they realized that it wasn't actually Colin that was the problem, and a lot of them have now said that the writing was the problem and things that were going on behind the scenes was the problem. And the press, Doctor Who TV, they suggested, this is more modern press actually, because I couldn't find anything on past press about Colin, that Colin's coat was actually one of the biggest reasons why, and he should have had something softer because of his brash approach to the doctor. And also a negative fan reaction as well to strangling Perry in the twin dilemma. And obviously budget cuts, as John has already said, new time slot against Corey. That impacted it. But here's the thing. Okay, now this is my main gripe, okay? Colin himself, he worked consistently from 1970 to 1986 on the TV. And after this unceremonious firing that made him look, in my opinion, really bad, he didn't appear again on TV until 1991 and the Stranger Things. So it is possible that his firing had a ripple effect. And this is what led to him not appearing on TV for a very long time. And I think Colin was right not to return for the regeneration. He says he regretted it, but I think he was right not to return. However, I do think he was lucky. But let's just talk about the negative impacts, because I've rambled on for long enough. This sort of association with this type of reaction to a firing can have a massive negative impact on actors just in general, because it's very easy to lay the blame on the face of the show. And this could potentially happen to Shouty if he carries on talking the way he's talking. Because it makes it sound like that they are the difficult ones to work with and not the people behind the scenes. They are the hit guy. They are the fall guy for everything that goes on. And it can take one word from that higher up and your career could just...
Well, look at, we were concerned about Willie Gibson, weren't we? We were concerned about that. We'll say in the news later, that's all changed. We were, we're still concerned about John Barrowman, Noel Clark, you know, a word in the ear. And people suddenly are having problems. So regarding Colin Baker, I buy your point big time. Have to say, my mum is my kind of barometer because she hates Doctor Who. She liked The Church on Ruby Road. I'll say that straight away. I looked at her bemused. But she also loved the Colin Baker portrayal in The Twin Dilemma and Attack of the Cybermen. Now, my mum, I have to underline this, she hates Doctor Who. But she thought...
I wonder what little kid made her hate Doctor Who.
I don't know. I'm bemused. So, and I have to say, and so there's something in his portrayal. And you know what? When you're mentioning all those reasons, Rachel, he was getting 9 million, 8 million viewers when the schedules were all to pot, when, like you said, it was stop-start. So, you know, when I'm talking about the BBC either being neglectful or being mismanaging a situation, I think Colin Baker was looking like a success. Forget the court, forget everything else. And yes, we've been saying it was an awful year for him personally.
Yeah.
It was a very, very bad time. Bless him. He had too much going on. It was horrible. And there was no care. There was no compassion. There was actually no management of Colin Baker. It was absolutely awful. And I just think, gosh, and I have to say, I won't say it was the BBC's fault. It was the controller of BBC One who decided he'd had enough of Colin Baker for whatever reason. And as people have said in the thread, you're taking the man out. What's this, a personal vendetta, allegedly? When actually sack your script editor. If you don't like Eric Saywood's graphic, violent scripts, get rid of him. If you get sick of J&T, get rid of him. But why play Colin Baker?
Because he's the face of the show.
Easiest target.
And for those in the chat who don't know what we're talking about, we're referencing that in January of 1984, Colin Baker's 6-week-old son passed away.
Yeah, and
Michelle, can you elaborate on that a little bit, because I was not aware of that.
Apparently, he died of SIDS. He was 6 weeks old. He was born in December of '83, and he died suddenly. Like Lee says.
What is SIDS?
Sudden infant death syndrome.
It happens.
Okay.
It's
Cot death. They used to call it cot death.
Like,
But
so every time I would go check on my kids when they were small, you're afraid
Yeah.
you check them to see if they're breathing because you're
Because
afraid.
sometimes at this time, babies were advised to lay on their tummies when they didn't have strength to lift their little heads up.
Yeah, they
And
changed
this
every
is
2
it.
years.
And this is what. And
After
this
we
is
started
one
to
thing.
take back over, death, sudden infant death dropped dramatically.
And this is one thing about being Doctor Who fans, I have to say, because people get quite associated with the actors. And actually, there was an awful lot of support, bless him, for Colin and his wife, Marion, of course. It was an awful time, as you can expect.
I just can't imagine the loss of a baby.
Yeah,
I've known people who've lost babies. It's the worst in the world.
It was his only son.
Yeah.
And so, come on,
Wow.
take the program away, take all that away.
The
The
human
personal
element.
issue, it was awful. It was awful. And you could have treated him better. Of course you could. And that's one on the whole of the BBC.
I think Rachel's right though. I was just going to say that he had arguably the hardest start of a Doctor as well, because the way they wrote him as being, trying to kill Perry, he had to build the trust of the audience up over time. Now, for me, I always felt I love Seventh Doctor, I loved bits, but with the Sixth Doctor, I always felt I wonder what would have happened if we'd just got an extra season.
Right.
Where we
Okay.
would have
Now,
gone.
if I could, Brendan, let me go ahead and introduce my second indictment here. Now, there's no way to follow up properly on everything that Rachel just said. She was obviously very prepared for this show, and I'm going to have to rewind and go back, and I suggest everyone do that. Listen to what Rachel just said. Okay. My second indictment with BBC being guilty of neglect of the show is the very fact, above and beyond the missing episodes, the very fact that the show was canceled from 1989 until 2005. Now, if anyone will go and check, there is new Doctor Who merchandise coming out almost every single day. Check out whoseum.net, ran by my Doctor Who friend Alex Patterson, and you will see that there is new Doctor Who merchandise coming out almost every single day. Everything from novels to audio adventures with Big Finish, and then of course these Blu-ray box sets that are coming out of all of the classic episodes being remastered with all new interviews and all of that. So there's a huge cash cow there for BBC, because if there were not, we wouldn't have this much new merchandise coming out almost every single day. It could be all consuming if somebody were to try to read all the new books, listen to all the new audios, watch all of the new remastered episodes and what have you. So from 1989 until 2005, aside from the television movie, there was nothing. So this is my second indictment of BBC in neglecting Doctor Who, in the fact that they canceled it for all of those years. Because had they kept it going, there would be even more seasons that they could be selling for profit. So that right there, the cancellation from 1989 until 2004, which aired in 2005 with Rose, was a massive, absolute, complete, total failure.
Well, and I'll be fair, and I mean, Retrodoc's been keep my English right with missing on this one. It was never cancelled. It was never cancelled. It was rested. Yeah, this was the problem. So that the shot I showed you there, Greg, was from 1985. I remember it. I was at college. I'd gone into the news agency at lunchtime before the lectures in the afternoon. And on the Sun newspaper was that headline, Doctor Who axed in plot by the BBC. Because the fuss was so big, they suddenly said they just needed time and money to have other drama productions. And so it was seen as an 18-month hiatus. But the next time, you've mentioned 1989, they didn't ever officially cancel it. They just quietly let it go away because they knew the fans would come gunning for them and they wanted it to go. Now, before everybody comes in on the axing issue, okay, I've got a few things to say about that one regarding, if I can get my little buttons right. Let's have a look. Yeah, By the way, actually, on what Rachel said, I just want to kind of be a very tidy person. Michael Grade years later said he got it wrong. He does actually admit he made a mistake. He said it had been called, he called it rubbish with no redeeming features and was a waste of license-free payers' money. But then he did do a U-turn. He said, the Doctor's back. It's beaten me. It was a very clunky studio show. It was up against Star Wars and Spielberg. It seemed left behind, but he now says, as in this is 2005, 6, 7, he now watches it and records it. So that was just about a fairness. But I wanted to show you this to make you think about whether we're slagging off the BBC, fairly criticising it or not. They they could have finished Doctor Who in 1966.
Yeah.
You know, change of actor. That was a possibility. They could have done it again at the end of the War Games because ratings had started to go down. We're moving into colour TV. You know, is this problematic? They did rest it in 1985. They did seem to forget about it in 1989.
Yeah.
They did think that the ratings were not good enough in America to sustain this kind of simulcast with Fox. And then there was discussion at the end of David Tennant whether the series had any legs. So to be fair, just to be fair and to give context, axing has been done and discussed a few times.
I think we're in a different stage now compared. I think we're now in a stage where they won't axe it. They'll try and run the cash cow into the ground before it disappears off of TV. That's the difference between now and, you know, 89 and other times in the show's history.
Yeah, certain people have made their money. They could give a flip. What happens? RTD ain't gonna lose his house if the season sucks. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, because the difference now is that they see that they can make a lot of money from Doctor Who, or they used to be able to make a lot of money from Doctor Who, whereas 89 they didn't see it as this cash cow.
Now they're making money off Doctor Who, but it's always the classic stuff.
Yeah, absolutely,
right.
Yeah,
right.
You know, and I will say,
from what I've heard, that's all that sells is classic.
Yeah, and I will say, I get Timescale's comments about the cancellation or the you know, unofficially never cancelled 89 situation, but looking back as I lived through those wilderness years, I would say I don't think if it had come back earlier we would have got things like Big Finish. I don't think that would have been commissioned.
Well, there's also the argument that Big Finish could have played a very serious role in it actually continuing.
Yeah.
Yeah, they must have been making a little bit of profit to make somebody raise an eyebrow somewhere.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Because you'd have to bring that to somebody, because you always got to get to the bean counters and say, well, we can make $1 or £1, but you know what I'm saying? So maybe they had something to show from it.
Well, Big Finish actually started as an unofficial audio series called the Audio Visuals in the, I guess, the late 80s through the 1990s, where people like Nicholas Briggs and a whole bunch of other people, which I won't even try to name, actually kept the series alive in audio. So I think Big Finish and the people involved in it are largely to thank for the fact that it was kept alive for so long. And I think that Big Finish may have been very instrumental in the fact that it finally did return in 2005.
Yep.
And Lorraine Heggessy. Lorraine Heggessy, who had no link with Big Finish, just knew that they were sitting on a gold mine. I've often used the analogy with the BBC on this topic, that it's a bit like when you either, you know, somebody in the family dies and you go into the attic and you find some loom, some family heirloom or something, and you don't have any love for it. And you're thinking, do I sell this? Do I chuck it in the skip? Is this important or not? And a few people might come to your door going, oh, yeah, that's worth £5. And you go, oh, that sounds too cheap. And then other people say, do you know what? can I have that for £10,000? You go, oh, hold on a minute. It's obviously better than I thought. The BBC seem to be holding this kind of antique or piece of rubbish, and they've never been quite sure what it's worth. And I just think they really don't know what they've got. And Lorraine Heggessy knew, Big Finish knew, kept it going, kept us all going.
And don't forget, like, the new adventures in the books.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That's been a big part of my Doctor Who fandom. I've read so many of those books recently, but that they were doing their thing. But that was probably a lot of some of the same people, I guess. I don't know, but it was awesome. And Nick Briggs definitely. Hey, you come on the Sense Sphere anytime. I'll speak for Brendan, brother.
I would love to interview that guy.
I'll tell you what I was listening to today, just randomly, as it occurred to me, was Jubilee. It's that one where that Dalek only listens to Evelyn, and it reminded me of that episode where Rose first meets that lone Dalek and she touches it, and I sometimes wondered if they had pulled that from that. I don't know if it's at the same time, but
Rob Sherman got credit for it because they adapted it. Yeah.
Oh, I'm liking, I'm on my adventures. I'm up to number 11 in the main range. I'm digging, what's her name? Smythe, Evelyn Smythe. Yeah, I like her a lot.
Great character.
She's a fantastic character. But, it just shows that they can actually just work together and work off of each other and realize the success of like the Big Finish stories and just take inspiration from those kinds of stories and actually make them work. Obviously, it might be a bit sort of like bad to have a Big Finish story to really be translated onto the screen. That might be a bit, but I got something there. But it just occurred to me. Yeah.
They tried that with Spare Parts as well, didn't they? With the first Cybermen stories, but it didn't work out anywhere near as good.
No, was that Bill? That was a Bill Potts one, wasn't it?
No, that was the Tennant one with the first Cybermen in the parallel universe.
The Cybers in
that one.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it didn't work out as well as the audio. That's it.
So, Brandon, your turn. Evidence. I'll just remind people who've just joined us, we've got a very lively thread. Welcome, one and all. This is my great panel. I tell you what, they are fair, they are informed, and they're passionate. So, can I just say, Brandon?
Well, thank you, Brendan.
Yeah, I was talking to the British ones. We weren't going to get rid of us with that comment earlier. So, charge 1 and charge 2, neglect of the Doctor Who franchise and mismanagement. Brandon, where would you like to go with this argument?
I don't know, because I sent you like 4 or 5 different things. What picture have you got?
you can go where you want, honestly.
All right, got you.
I'm nimble.
Let's see. Okay, here's one, and this is going to be. Okay, here's one thing I don't like about what BBC. This is BBC, something they've done by like not doing something. It's like the crime of omission. So they've allowed I feel like the spine support structure of the canon that is Doctor Who, with some variations, there's time travel, all that stuff. I feel like BBC sat by a little too passively when they whipped out the Timeless Children on us, and then they hit us over the head like Star Beast coming out the gate, like we're always saying. So my thinking, and like right now, is the dumbest thing the BBC has done is something they've not done, and that's kind of trying to temper certain things and not raise a hand and say, hey, you don't have anybody on that staff that goes, hey guys, we can't do Timeless Children. You know what I mean? And there's nobody out there telling Shouty to shut his mouth or RTD. So I'm saying that the biggest thing the BBC's doing is just not reining their peeps in. Like, you know what I'm saying?
There should be safety nets.
They weren't governing the show.
Should not be allowed to happen.
Right. And they're not governing the show. They let it become just another thing. So I think that is the BBC's biggest sin, for me anyway, above and beyond anything else, because they've let something happen that may irreparably have damaged it, because we don't know how long we've got to wait for the next RTD, like version 1 that's going to come along and say, hey, I can fix this. I can fix this. Maybe it's not our generation. Maybe it'll be the next one. I don't know. Or maybe they'll destroy it completely. That's the thing. Like, BBC hasn't been a good custodian of it the last few years, especially. The other years I can't speak to as well because I only have so much knowledge. But I feel like they just stood by way too passive and didn't do a thing. Like now, like the reason you get so many people trying to copy this, that, or the other is because in the modern day world we live in, once something gets creative, it's going to offend somebody. So I think that's why. That's another thing BBC's.
Yeah, Brandon, I agree with you completely. BBC has not been a good custodian. And this goes into my third indictment. Since 2005, there's only been 3 showrunners. In fact, I've actually heard the term being used as the boys club. You know, why? In the last 2 decades, have there only been 3 showrunners? That is not being a good custodian of the show.
I think they got away with it for several years because I don't think anybody really kind of raised an eyebrow probably till season 10 and even getting closer to the Jody stuff. I think they thought it was going okay at first. I think maybe it was into Jody a few episodes when they realized, okay, we got a real problem here, guys.
And it's not going to change anytime soon, sadly.
Right. Here's another one. Yeah. This was another complaint I had. This I thought was okay, technically speaking, if you wanted to pull off one by generation, if you say, hey, let's figure out a way to bring Sylvester McCoy or somebody back for a season or something, you know what I mean? Okay, well, maybe that one time it happened, some freak thing. The fact that RTD's come out and said that it happened to every doctor along his timeline, that's another way the BBC has allowed them to just take a chisel and a hammer to it. And in that way, and then you say something about, oh, well, what do you care, nerd? You're just a racist and a bigot, because they don't have a good explanation to come back and say anything to explain to me why they've made some of the choices they've made. All they've got is that break glass in case of emergency, call you a bigot.
Yeah. And this is what I mean. And we were talking about some of this stuff last week. I will advertise because you all put the effort in and it was a good show. It always is with this panel. Does the role of showrunner or producer serve Doctor Who best? So please, if you haven't seen that, we did discuss some of these and rehearse some of these arguments. And, you know, when you have a bad idea, you're pulled into line. We talked about the role of the showrunner and the role of the producer in the past. And we said there were departmental heads who would tell Verity Lambert off, who would tell Philip Hinchcliffe off, who would tell Barry Letts off. And suddenly you've got RTD and Chris Chibnall able, as Brandon said, to completely change canon, and it's allowed. And I find it so ironic that we break what's unique about Doctor Who, and then we say, let's go and copy something else. Why don't
you don't explain who the Doctor is, therefore it is no longer Doctor Who.
Yeah,
and a lot of that going around. I think a whole lot of it going around.
I think Michelle's has something here.
Well, at the same time, it goes back to them not BBC saying don't say that or watch what you're saying. The bi-regeneration on screen, it appears to be a one-time thing. Is RTD running his mouth in the after shows saying that it was every single doctor. Davros Gate didn't start on air. It started with him running his mouth in the production and the promotion of the show. So everything that you were trying to separate, like what he's done on screen may not be that offensive. It's what he's saying afterwards and behind. And the after show.
Almost antagonistically.
Coming up and saying, no more interviews. No more making out shows. We don't need to see any more making out shows. Save that for the DVD.
And I would also say that I think we're in a time, with the exception of JNT, where you probably hear so much more from the actual producer RTD than you do from the actual show itself, from official press releases. I mean, RTD was on a game show on BBC One a few weeks ago on the wheel, and it's like, in what time in the history of the show would you have a producer of the show as a contestant on the wheel or on a game show? You wouldn't. You'd have a star of the show on it. But that's where I think we are at the moment. It's he's almost believing his own celebrity, which is another thing problem.
I think he thinks he is the celebrity. He is the doctor. Where everybody else said, and again, we're not letting Shouty shine. We're not giving him the ability to go out there and to wow us with his acting. It's everything coming behind it. We see the bi-generation and we go, okay, that may not be my favorite thing. Oh, well, it's crazy Doctor Who. Let's go on to the next episode. It's all the little things that RTD behind it has to say. He has to be the one that's talking.
I've got to be fair. I know what you're saying, John, particularly about RTD on the wheel and everything, and on the one show on over here. But the other thing I would say is we did see John Nathan Turner on Saturday Superstar going live.
Yeah, true.
He did appear on Blue Peter. You know, he was the PR, and this is where the BBC, I think, were neglectful. That to be honest, without John Nathan Turner, the show was getting no publicity at all. And so that poor man was holding it up like Atlas. And RTD, in a way, is wanting to be a bit like John Nathan Turner, but he's going really, really big on it. And as I said in last week's show, John Nathan Turner tended to court publicity by saying something controversial, but he never did it in the show, whereas RTD just does it.
Yeah, but and I'd also say that the thing you could credit J&T about is the fact at least he was balanced. You know, he said it to everyone. I know we're talking about a different time, but RTD does it to certain publications, doesn't he? And says certain things that he knows he's going to get a reaction from people.
It's like the world's become Twitter, and it's like, okay, instead of like, I'm so famous and I'm so great, I'm going to go out here and basically, instead of just tweeting something, I'm going to go out here and run my mouth and just see what everybody says. Yeah, like we do when we tweet. You know?
We all need to know what you're eating. You know, that whole idea that I'm a celebrity, so everything I say must be golden. Everything I say must be right. The world revolves around me, which is a sign of narcissism to a certain degree. And to be successful in Hollywood, you do need a certain bit of narcissism, and that's okay. But some of the controversies that he has started has not been things that have been actually on the TV show or on the air. It's things that he said afterwards. And J&T wasn't going out there insulting the viewers.
No.
Sorry, go on, John. Yeah, I'm going to quickly just show some pictures because I think it was where Brandon was going. I'm just getting it in while I can, keeping an eye on time, keeping an eye for everybody that once we've had this debate, we will actually be going heavy on some of these.
With the twerking.
Yeah, I think
live show.
I think most of the thread are waiting for that, and I think we're all going to have to do it. But basically, one of the arguments was that with this big budget that we now have, and RTD has in his hands with Bad Wolf, wasn't it?
They squandered it.
Yeah, squandered on an enormous, cavernous, looks like a waste of a TARDIS interior, really, when it could be spent on other stuff. You know, quality writing and script editing, I think, is key. And so it brings into play how we're using the money and the Disney factor in whether the BBC know what they're doing or whether the BBC have just kind of gone into some sort of arrangement with Disney because they want the money. And as I always use another analogy, I say it's like a drug addict who actually, you know, where can they find their quick fix? And the Disney in this case is supplying, and the BBC are going to find they cannot walk away from this. They will need that money. They will want to stick with it. And so suddenly, yes, they've got more money, and that worked by doing the deal with Disney.
What are you doing with it?
Yeah.
They do nothing with it. I mean, okay, look, when I first saw that TARDIS, I was like, oh, that's cool, man. But I think that was a reaction because, you know, if you go back and watch Classic Who, I've said before, and I don't mean this in a negative way, but me watching New and then going Classic next, it was like, it felt real claustrophobic. You know what I mean? Because it's much more enclosed than stuff I'm used to watching in my life, even in my 40s. And so at first I thought it was okay, but then I got to thinking about it. I was like, wait a second. Imagine what they spent and wasted on that when what they really should have been doing was using that money to get back the feel that it had back in the day. You want it to feel like David Tennant. Well, I want it to feel like Tom Baker. So let's meet in the middle, have a compromise here. I think that they could have taken that money and they could have maybe licensed some other previous existing stories, come up with some new good original stuff. But this right here, I think, just perfectly exemplifies what they thought. Big money. We've waited 60 years to be able to do something like this, so let's just go ham.
Rachel?
Well, let's just put it like this. They could have used this money, or whatever funding that they were getting at the time to make the special effects on Wild Blue Yonder actually look good.
Well put.
Um,
You know,
I got motion sickness from that.
you know, Doctor Who is in a very, very dangerous place right now, because at least in America, because since 2005, it has been a very niche show. It was on Sci-Fi Channel, which is very limited to people that might enjoy, oh, I don't know, science fiction. And then it was also on BBC America, which is also a smaller streaming service that might be appealing to someone that is, oh, I don't know, maybe fans of BBC. Now, all of the sudden, boom, it's going to be on Disney. Okay. And if this does not work, and if it is not accepted by the viewers being on Disney, then the show is in big trouble. So it's in a very precarious position right now where it seems like it's going to be do or die. And I hope, and I really hope that it does not get messed up. And I hope that it is successful, because this seems like a Hail Mary right here, where it's either going to be successful or it won't. And I think that if there is not a third season ordered by Disney, I think that it's doomed. And I hate to say that. John, what were you saying?
I'll just pointing to Retro Doc. He says, if the ratings are bad, we'll never know. And he's 100% right. Because
they'll scare the hell out of them.
They'll spin that. And I've talked before about the way Disney does it. I think you guys probably more qualified than I am. But in the US, you get the Nielsen figures. And I think they've got it for streaming now, whereby they do it by
really
minutes
doesn't
watched.
mean a whole lot. I'm actually a Nielsen voter from time.
Yeah. So that's why they're putting 2 episodes out at once, because that's more minutes. So actually,
and it's also the binge model, because it'll go from one episode to the other.
Yeah. So I think you're right, and I think that's probably where a lot of the budget's gone as well. They've gone into quickly doing a second season, because even if it is a failure and it's not supported in this first season, they've still got that in the can.
So, so basically, our creative processes are being twisted to do with a deal with an American brand. I understand.
Which doesn't
I'm the devil
now. You should be ashamed of yourselves.
We didn't do it, man.
Yeah, no. If I could have stopped this, I would. It's so bad.
He dumped the tea for a reason.
So there's that element to it, which is, their creative rush is to kind of get as much done with the money from Disney, rather than creatively, we want to do 4 episodes a year of maximum quality. Now, as a Doctor Who fan, I want more than 4, but I'm trying to be realistic. If they think creatively, this is how we do it, do it. They seem to be in a rush to do something to please somebody else. And then, of course, yes, Thread, I am here, streaming. Oh, my God. By the way, I'm advertising all our programs here. Look at all these old programs. We've done them all. I think, Michelle, remember the Disney Factor?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All of us were on this one. And that was our discussion about the streaming. And of course, who are we trying to please? Creatively, if it was going to launch on Eurovision night, I get that, but not at midnight. And so suddenly you're just thinking, BBC, are you really dropping the ball? Or are the BBC now just going to burn this franchise out while they can? And a bit like some American products that are very, very successful, they burn out quickly because they make 30 episodes a year. Remember Friends and all that? Friends were successful, I know. But certain series, they burn them out too fast. There's no longevity because they
One-hit wonders.
They're on a hot shot stuff.
Yeah, one-hit wonders.
And so there's an element where I'm thinking, a BBC, are you really going into burning out Doctor Who quickly, getting as many books out of it as you can? But unfortunately, that will not sustain or give us longevity.
No.
They're going to do whatever that mouse tells them to do now.
So you think? You see, this is what I mean. So when we charge,
the mouse does not invest in anything if the mouse does not have his say, and he's going to have his say.
So there you go.
Yeah.
When we're saying this is neglectful of the Doctor Who franchise, because it sounds as though we're not putting Doctor Who first.
Yeah, all Disney want it for is, we said this before, they want content and merchandise, and they're looking at it and they're thinking, right, our Disney Plus app is failing. We need something for a slot at certain times of the year, just like they will have their Star Wars and their Marvels that aren't doing too well at the moment. That's what they want it for, you know. And if they whack out a load of rubbish, they'll just say, well, we filled the slot. They don't particularly
John,
care.
they just say, hey, the biggest didn't like Doctor Who either, see?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
They're very close-minded.
And even though he's not connected with the show, they'll have Ewan McGregor in a car doing a hostage video saying, why are you all hating Doctor Who?
Shouty has just gotten the most terrible DMs.
Has anyone heard this one then? Because there's been lots of conspiracies about the two together. Archer Collin, I did hear that the main reason for the first 2 episodes being shown at once were because the BBC wanted the second episode that date, but Disney did not want it to start on May the 4th.
Oh, heck no.
Oh, yeah. Because
that's a conflict of interest.
That's Star Wars days.
Yeah. So there we go.
The mouse says what
You'll
goes.
end the show when I tell you to.
You'll do what Mickey says, or you won't get the money.
Watch this. Okay, I can't quote without getting YouTube banned. Watch the South Park parodies of Mickey.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
I like Michelle's
what
parody
he says about
of Mickey.
it.
That's great.
Within two blank. I don't give it 2 blanks in the popsicle stick.
Ugh, here we go.
This reminds me of when Brandon actually did the RTD works for me now.
Yeah. Now, John, you referenced in a loose way this agenda, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah, bigot. Won't you go ahead and say what you want to say?
Yeah, I'm going to get you cancelled.
Hey, you're so mediocre. You're white and mediocre.
I'm spending too much time with you. That's what's going on, mate.
It does rub off, don't it? Yeah. You'll be saying y'all and ain't before you know it.
Yeah, I mean, again, you know, in 2010, you had the Equality Act. And, you know, I wanted to make some notes on this about the fact that, you know, the BBC's diversity strategy, which the final version of it was released in 2015, sort of pushed more of representation into their productions and into their production staff quotas, and it has jumped massively in the last few years, and you know, sadly, it was starting to creep in Moffat's and Capaldi's sort of final run, but it really hit it when we got into the Jodie Whittaker Chibnall, and it's just gone on from there. And sadly, that has been a massive issue for Doctor Who and for other productions.
Yeah, so much so that somebody told me that I should carry on with my White Crusade.
Really?
Yeah.
Fine, we will.
Fine, I will. I'll shout it from the rooftop.
Yeah.
There's some people that have some strong opinions about stuff, but it's like, you know, I think Brendan's such a great example, because it's like, well, you're after a target audience. The people that are going to like something, they're going to like it regardless, whether they're gay, straight, black, white. I mean, if you do something good, they're going to like it. I don't, you know, it just, their thinking's really kind of bass backwards, as we say here in North Carolina.
Where this has gone wrong, though, essentially, I've said this before. You have shows where this went wrong when people applied this report, is they seem to think you have to have it in every single show, every single production. You don't. You can do a diverse show, and then you can do a show that's true to its core values. You don't have to have that representation in every
Bill Potts has entered the chat. Oh, what? She right? Oh, she's gay? Oh, I didn't know.
Really?
I didn't know that.
Really?
Oh.
Were there clues?
But No, John's right. It has that. I saw. What was it I saw a little while ago? Famous Five.
Yeah.
Famous Five is a good example of that. George.
Yes.
Now people were saying. I will just clarify something here. People were saying that the kid was a trans kid. That's not true. That kid is actually biologically female, but she was mixed race in a time period where that wouldn't have necessarily been sort of accurate. And I'm not like hating on the kid. The kid was fine. Like nothing wrong with the kid's acting ability or anything like that. I saw it. But for the time period, you even had historians going, "Oh, come on." You know, it's like, but that's essentially what this inclusion plan has led to. And it's like in some respects misrepresentation of like skin color. Sorry, I don't like drawing attention to it, and I know I said about it earlier, but that has essentially become a thing.
Yeah,
they do draw attention to it. Another example.
What was it Capaldi said at the Frost Festival Bill? Like history's a whitewash or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
And the new trailer has got it. When you look at that Bridgerton episode or whatever it's called, in there, and I think what's going to happen is you're going to have Shouty telling everyone about how bad racism is.
Yeah.
But then the joke of it is you're going to have all these people dancing behind him in the background. You know, your argument is diminished.
Yeah, it's so
but at the
bad.
same time, there was a limited black aristocracy of gentry, not aristocracy, but gentry, because they were getting wealth off the sugar islands. So at the same time, there were people of that era. So,
but not to the degree that they're putting them into these shows.
We need to tell the story accurately. We need to tell it accurately.
So here's something. Okay, this was just a discussion between my friend and myself a little while ago, and we were watching Ghosts. Have you ever watched Ghosts? Yeah, BBC Ghosts. So in that we have what's her name? Regency era character.
Georgian.
What's her name? Oh my gosh, I can't remember her name off the top of my head.
I know
and the first thing he said was she's a diversity hire, and I actually had to correct him. I said, actually, she's part of the writing team, but also not only that, I said, have you actually watched the rest of the show? Do you actually know what the story behind her character actually is? And he said no. Yeah, that's it, Kitty, that's it, that's the character's name, Kitty. And he said no, and I said, exactly, you don't actually know. I said her character's a ward. She's not actually a high status character. Her character is actually represented as it would have been in the Regency period. But it's got that bad that someone like my friend is thinking, oh my gosh, that's a high status character.
Based off of Dido Bell.
We've created.
Dido Bell, yeah.
They've over-egged it at the moment. They really have.
It's like Anne Boleyn a few years ago, wasn't it? You know,
that was you see, because example. Suddenly everybody is starting to notice something that wasn't discussed that explicitly before. I have to say, if you watch, and I'm talking to the Brits really, but repeats of Top of the Pops, repeats of programs from the 90s and the 80s, the representation is pretty good. It is really good. And the 90s TV, when I look at it, good representation across the board. And Doctor Who has done its bit, I have to say. One of my favorite episodes was look at Resurrection of the Daleks. I loved Resurrection of the Daleks, and you had a good diverse cast in that. And you know, I don't think this, I mean, actually, I'm almost using your channel's name. We don't have to shout about it. Just do it. Just do it. And I just think it's so unfortunate, because now we shout about it and therefore everybody notices something and maybe gets cynical about it.
Well, you see, the War Games had Rudolph Walker in it, a very young Rudolph Walker, but he was in it, and he was one of the main characters in it, and he was bloody brilliant. One of my favorite actors, Rudolph Walker.
Yeah, and Martha Jones is one of the most and I'm more present day, I granted, but Martha Jones was one of the best companions, but
so hot.
I didn't like Martha.
Trust me,
but I
Brandon.
liked
Trust me,
Reba.
Brandon. She's hot as hell.
She certainly is.
She's very
Look,
pretty.
I'm gay, but I understand she's actually better since then, isn't she? She's better since the series. She's hot property, isn't she? She's really good.
I actually like her more in series 4 than I do in series 3.
Yeah. And I think she'd lead the series.
Yeah.
She'd be very good at doing a spin-off. Martha Jones herself. And this is what I mean. We've got no issue with Shouty. We've got no issue with any of this type of casting. Our issue is how it is portrayed. Our issue is somebody like Martha Jones, give her a series. Just give her a series.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it would go really well, Martha Jones.
You say that we have no issue with Shouty, and I didn't until today. You know, reading what he
any issues we have with
said.
Shouty made them, or RTD did, yeah.
Yeah, it's almost as if he is an RTD puppet, and I'm really dismayed to read the things that he said, because I would have never thought of anything such.
Oh yeah, dude. RTD's got his hand up more puppet rears than Jamie and Brendan combined. I mean, I'm telling you. and for different forms of pleasure, but I'm telling you.
Loki just crossed his legs. Like, oh!
You've just killed it. You've just killed him. He's had a heart attack. I mean,
there goes YouTube shutting down the channel.
So I want no word said. I mean, I'm aware of diversity casting, so I've got everything ready. She's gonna get all the jobs in my puppet show in the future. You're sacked. Bye. So
Story of my life.
That's it.
Well, it's another word again for discrimination, isn't it?
You're mediocre. So
you're saying we've got to be inclusive, but you're discriminating against people that you're then turning jobs down for.
Yeah, exactly.
Come on, Gina Carano. You can do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And can I just say before we move on, it's such a massive topic. You just have to enjoy where you go with it.
Oh yeah.
Martha Jones's character, and yes, brought by the showrunner RTD in his first iteration. You could argue that while everybody is so progressive, it is unfortunate that you made the black character suffer from unrequited love.
Yes.
Not a helpful plot line, was it?
Well, no, and she even questioned it herself. So if she's questioning it, she did, yeah. If she's questioning it, then that should tell you something. If an actor has to question something, like that, then there's there might actually be a problem there.
Then they get labeled as a diva and difficult to work with on the set.
Oh, absolutely, I've been labeled that before. Yeah.
It's true. In my history career, and I'm not somebody who yells misogyny, every time around, but you'll see that in, like the history, or I'm a historian. It's like, oh, well, you're thinking that only because you're a woman. That's not, you little gal, you don't know what you're talking about. If you speak up, oh, you're abrasive, you're assertive.
Well, you see,
you don't play well with others.
The plot didn't work out in any way. When you analyze it, it falls apart. You had a white doctor and a black character chasing him and being ignored. It was very problematic from a progressive writer when you look at it. Very, very unfortunate. And I have to say, it was a shame because you could see the quality. It's a bit like when Stephen Moffat had Olivia Colman in 11th Hour, and you think, oh my God, what a missed opportunity. And you've got Martha Jones-Freeman, missed opportunity, all that potential. She had to go to Hollywood, to actually be noticed even more. So we're talking about whether the BBC dropped the ball when it came to Doctor Who. Now, I know there's people in the thread who were there. I was there. Well, some of you weren't old enough, so I know you're out of the equation.
Tell them the truth, Brendan. You didn't pay to get in, did you? You cheated.
Well, if they want the money now, it'll probably be about 5,000 quid now. So yes, Lonleat House in 1983 in April. The BBC got it wrong, didn't they? They underestimated the crowds. I remember, because I've got a photograph, I was trying to find it. Me and my dad, and in those days, you only took so many photographs. You couldn't take loads because you couldn't afford it. And one of my prize photographs, there's one of me at Longleat, and there's a few others of Troughton and Davison and all the rest of it, and Pertwee. But I have one of all the cars on the other side of the whole hill was covered in cars. And then they kept making announcements that on Radio 2 and Radio 1, they're announcing to turn back and not to approach Wiltshire. And yeah, me and our dad drove overnight, and we happened to get in before they put the ticket booth up, and yeah, we didn't pay. So we honestly, we were asleep in the back of our dad's car, and there was all this noise. We were right next to Longleat House, and suddenly everything was being erected behind us. And then I went, "Gosh, we're in." And I know, hey, I was only 12.
I don't know how you sleep at night, mate. I really don't.
I know, to see the Doctor Who's Woodstock. So
white mediocrity in action right there.
Unlike Woodstock, nobody overdosed and there wasn't a baby born.
True.
As far as we know.
It was a big marquee, but it was all fellas, I think, really. But,
for the people who don't get their joke, there was a baby born in Woodstock.
Well, there will be. Not sure about Doctor Who convention. We're too busy trying to get merchandise.
Yeah, Pertwee comes out, gets on the mic, and says, "Don't take the brown acid. The brown acid is bad."
That would have been quite good, actually.
We don't know what Travis
delivering a baby.
So my point there was that in the 20 years old Doctor Who, and the BBC underestimated how popular it was, and so in a way you have a long running thread that they don't really get it. They're executives. And it's a bit like the British cliche, which is we're good inventors, but we can't mass produce and actually make money out of an idea. And it feels like the BBC have got a brilliant idea in Doctor Who, but they just don't quite know what to do with it. And so it needs Americans to come in with the cash and to know how to make it bigger. Classic.
No.
Longleat should have been a wake-up call, and that should have been, and that goes into my I mentioned Longleat, but my main one was BBC never gave J&T the money that he asked for, or the budget that he asked for, and Longleat should have been the wake-up call for season 21. This show is successful. This show has a huge fan base. Okay, we will give you the pay increase that you want. And also my other criticism was they didn't give them the studio time that they needed for a show that involved complex special effects that you can't do in one episode. I mean, that was the biggest mess with Warriors of the Deep, was that they were rushing to end it because it was an election season. And BBC would not give them the extra time that they needed for a show that needed special effects. So you have basically the operator of the micro getting high off glue because the thing is oozing, and they're walking, and half that walk is because he's huffing it. He's huffing the glue. He's high as a kite behind in that cow outfit because they only had one take. And then they have the Ingrid Sayers, hey, kung fu fighting, and so saying we didn't have enough time to go, what? We do that. Come on.
Well, and this is it. The Doctor Who was never given a chance, but a lot of us have said we have. There was a lot of love for that type of Doctor Who. By the way, TARDIS Travels, can you imagine how amazing that would have been at Longleat if the Doctor Who video tent was built around my dad's car? I mean, can you imagine if the whole marquee and there's Pertwee? Can you imagine it? I think they missed an opportunity there because I could have
Oh, sorry.
I never made it to the video tent, TARDIS Travels, and I am going to do a Longleat show. So if you were there, TARDIS Travels, will you give me send me a message? And I do have contact details because we're going to do a Longleat show, and we're going to go over certain photographs. We're going to share them, and we're going to get all of the rest of the world jealous. And that's a good tactic. And
I'm jealous I wasn't even born yet.
Well, and be very jealous that you weren't. So there's the way you can all contact the Sensesphere. Twitter, there you go. Instagram, Facebook, we have a fan page. And please email me at sensesphere@gmail.com. So there's plenty of ways you can contact us. And so if TARDIS Travels, you were there, give us a message because I am going to be preparing that show about Longleat to have a bit of fun. Mind you, nobody's going to beat nice. There you go. So the point is there. Doctor Who, mismanaged, neglected, sometimes loved, often not by the BBC. Has everybody across my panel mentioned the examples they wanted to?
Yeah, I believe so.
because it's very
I
important.
think we could say they're guilty for sure. Capital punishment is still a thing over here. So,
well,
there's the fact that in the last 19 years, there's only been 3 showrunners. Now, if that's not mismanagement, I don't know what is.
Well, there we go. We've given it a go. Well done. Now, we have advertised that actually we do have news we're going to go over. But everybody who's been committed to us, and the thread has been so lively tonight, that it is important that we give everyone a chance. It's a moment to get to the loo, get your bulletproof vest on, to tighten your armor. We're going into the news trenches after this 4-minute pause because, as they said earlier, they have been blessed. They went all the way to Spain and they made the 2 Doctors remake. He's an androgum in it. He turns into an androgum. You'll see all the bits on him. And he turns feral on his grandson, Wokey Stroker. And
okay,
of course,
I'm scared now. Yeah, I am really scared.
well, you see, because you forgot that the cliffhanger last week was he had just turned into an androgum and he was about to attack his grandson. And this week, we've got a 4-minute movie, and everybody is going to go to the loo. And we'll meet you all to talk about the news in a few moments' time. We're going to be twerking. So see you all in 4 minutes. I'll race you. An androgum. Ah! Right. This is the plan, right? I'm not acting now, although I do feel a bit peckish. But we need to do some big budget chase sequences. Can you see those hills behind you, son? It just makes it look as though we've spent a bit of money at the cost of packet, you know? And I think Mr. Brendan might really appreciate that. Because look at those hills, look.
What about my asthma, Grandad?
Oh, your asthma.
Yes.
Well, your gran doesn't need to know about it. You just run and run and run. I'll chase you like hell, right? I'll chase you. Try not to fall down a cliff edge, because your gran would be angry then. But this is big budget, son. I need to chase you through the shrubs and stuff. Okay. I think my ticket can do it. Can your ticket do it, son?
I'll try my best, Grandad.
Well, this is why we're on the trip. It's to save the sense for you. I am Shouty of the Corny Grig. And I want to eat the human race, and I want to start now with you, Wokey. Ha 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 ha!
Shrimzel, I don't want to go.
Oh, I'll decide who goes. I want you on my plate. Come on then, come on then, come on then, come on then.
I hope he doesn't find me. I'm just hiding here for a minute. Catch my breath.
There he is. I found him. He's up that hill. I'm going to get him. I'm going to have him for my tea. Wokey, I can see you.
I hope he doesn't see me here.
I'll wait here. I'm no longer Willie Stroker of the Stroker family. I'm now Shouty of the Corny Grig, and I want my lunch. And he's coming, I'm sure, in a minute.
I'm just hiding here, hoping I don't get caught again.
I'm exhausted. I tell you what, that pesky thing, he must be hiding somewhere. I need to find him before this episode, because although we're big budget and I've got a big heart, I'm knackered. I'm going to wait here, and I think he's going to not see me, and then I'll pounce, and then time for tea. I'm going to get you. Right, my pretty. Time for choppy uppy. Time to carve you up. Now I've softened the flesh. Come on then, let's have it. Carve out that leg. Get that knife in now. Well, there you go. Started again. There you go. Unless you want another toilet break. Yes, it's very true. I think it's very right. No puppeteers were harmed during that filming. Well, yeah, a lot of walking. But yes, there you go. I can see that. Oh, 2 American. Oh no, it's 2-2. I was going to say who's won the loose stop. There you go. We'll go straight into it. Wow, you've stayed around. Hello, Gan. You've missed. Oh, I tell you what, Wokey is about to be murdered. Remember that bit with Perry? I remember the bit where tenderizing the flesh of Perry. Excuse me. And Jamie McCrimmon. Remember that in the Two Doctors? It was a little bit problematic. So, okay, the news. Here we go. Let's have a look. I did offer the clothes toss. So, Doctor Who star Shouty Gatwa surprised to learn he was getting more costumes. Right. And then he said he thought it would be interesting to travel through all the subcultures of Britain that it's had in the past and see it through the clothing line. Okay, whatever. But as you know from the nightclub scene in Church on Ruby Road, this is not where we were going. And he actually said he was quite shocked that he knew that he had an iconic scarf for Tom Baker, the fez with Matt Smith. And then he found that he had an idea for one costume. Excuse me. And they said, no, they weren't impressed with that. Have you got any other ideas? And then the costume designer, Pam Down, showed him all her sketches for the new series. And he saw kilts, skirts, and all kinds of gender-pushing, societal-pushing outfits.
Okay.
Yeah, and just the last bit here. The show, he says, and agrees with our panel, is quintessentially British, and it's a show that has accumulated the power to reflect where Britain is societally. And then he makes some strange reference to, in a weird way, the Doctor Who characters like Captain Britain. Where do you start?
So let me see if I've got this correctly. Russell Davies is the executive producer. He is also the showrunner. He's also writing most of the episodes, and now he is also the costume designer. Okay, when does Russell Davies actually cast himself as the Doctor and start producing the music as well? Because that's the only 2 things left from what it appears.
Exactly, because effectively this is his own sexual fantasy that he's playing out in the show anyway.
I'm looking. I got Captain Britain right
You
here.
just said that. I did not say that.
Yeah, and he is, and I'll stand by that. You know, that scene on the dance floor, everything that he's going to be doing will be his fantasy in there, or the Click's fantasy.
Well, the dance scene was homage to how he met his husband.
Yeah. Well, there you go. I didn't know that, but
Yeah.
you know, exactly.
He met his late husband at a disco, and he saw his late husband dancing.
But that's it. That's a well, it's not even a gay thing, is it? I mean, a lot of us will meet people on a night out, but
yeah, but
you can see.
I would say to that, if I was watching, if I was producing, it's probably not a great example at the moment the state it's in, but if I was producing Star Trek and I was going, I'm going to write a Klingon episode. Oh, I know what I'll do. I'll do them dancing on a dance floor. You know, there's a time and a place, and there's a story you can write to fit that. Doctor Who's not one of those productions.
And what is this fool? Hey, he's pissed off the comic book guy in me, man.
Yeah, I know.
What is he talking about Captain Britain? Captain Britain don't look nothing like doing nothing like Shouty Gatwa. He's only changed his look a couple of times, and usually it looks like a Union Jack. So I don't think that would fly with Shouty either. I don't see him as a patriotic.
I try and give credit. I like he had an idea, and it comes in with where Greg was coming from, which is it was RTD who's obviously told the costume designer we want a range of costumes, whereas bless him, the actor wanted one costume, and it was actually quite historical, wasn't it, John? I think you referenced it before. That was it a kind of aristocratic type costume he was thinking of in the past?
I'm not sure if it was me. But
it wasn't today, but it was a Bavarian type one. I saw one. It was like and anyway, that was his instinct. John Pertwee, as you know, picked his own costume.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, as we come to you, Rachel, I am probably like Brandon, the Captain Britain I don't get, but it's these quotes here that I've put in kind of an amber colour that I thought, who's decided this? And it's not Shouty Gatwa.
Right.
Rachel?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think it sounds a bit similar to JNT, because JNT made some quite brash and somewhat costume decisions for the doctors, like sticks of celery and rainbow coats and things like that, and didn't really sort of let them have that big of a say in their costume. This is the costume that they're essentially going to be done in for as long as they are the Doctor. And yeah, it just sounds familiar, I think.
It does. And on today's show, you were referencing Colin Baker's costume and how it defines the character, doesn't it? And so if you've not had a hand in it, it's problematic. And I have to say, we've got some issues with Shouty Gatwa today, but actually he has not said, I want kilts, skirts and gender pushing, societal pushing outfits. That is a costume designer being told from on high.
Does he say his opinion on it in this article? I've not actually read the article.
He said he was surprised. He had an idea for one costume.
Yeah.
And he was dismissed and said, do you have any other ones? In other words, we don't like your idea. In other words, we have this idea. I mean, my issue with how we go with this, never mind the comments, is you've got a doctor that becomes objectified. You're objectifying he's got a good physique, of course he has. But suddenly the doctor is much more, you're made aware of his body rather than his brain.
Yeah.
It's the misuse of like a character trait of the Doctor. It's like basically warping a character trait of the Doctor is that he will sometimes dress, unlike other people, unlike a lot of people. But to me, it just seems like they're taking that. Like, it's kind of like when people say, well, Doctor Who was always progressive. Well, they'll say, well, hey, you had a 12-foot scarf and you had this. So why can't Shouty run around?
Well, do you know why he had a 12-foot scarf?
The lady used all the wool. Yeah.
The BBC didn't have directions to tell her when to stop.
Yeah.
But
they loved it. They thought that was genius.
Who is he calling we? We inclusive of who?
Mm.
Well,
that poor gal probably got carpal tunnel from knitting that thing.
Yeah.
Oh God, I hate that sonic screwdriver so much. I hate it so
I
much.
told you it sucks. The plot device with the sonic screwdriver.
Yep, I agree.
Well, at least it doesn't look like a dildo.
Sonic for season 2. They're going to have a new one in season 2.
Yay.
He's going to have a new one in season 2, is
That's
he?
That's the rumor.
And you look here. I mean, if we, you could say some of the doctors before have looked eccentric, of course. There's an element of traditional Edwardian, blah blah blah. The cricketer, Pertwee, the dandy, the scarf, and then you look at more of the modern ones. And Matt Smith more famous for the bow tie and the fez, and then the leather jacket and the vest with Chris Eccleston as examples. So. we do know the context, but it just seems we've gone to a different place now, doesn't it?
Well, the question is, does he actually feel comfortable running around in these stereotyped costumes?
I'm about 100% sure he does. Yeah.
No, but you know what I mean. Like, comfort.
I don't know. I'm not sure. Yeah.
Because there's nothing worse than a costume that makes you feel
right.
Ugh.
That's one of the good things about them having, when they did let the actor pick their own stuff, because then at least you had a little bit more to say if you're somebody like me who's funny about how the stuff you wear feels, you know.
Right.
I'm just tired of seeing him in costumes. I want to see him as the Doctor. Forget all the
100%.
costumes.
But it's
kind
weird.
of opens the show to parody. It's making the show into parody, and we're trying to say for years that this is a serious show, and then a certain degree it makes it up to parody now.
Yeah,
but it's also it's not understanding the Doctor's character. The Doctor was always an outsider. The Doctor was intellectual and would outthink the monsters or the aliens. I mean, if you put this into context, and if we remade the brain of Morbius, the fourth Doctor would drop his trousers and twerk at Morbius to distract him, or Sarah Jane Smith would take a top off and wriggle her breasts at the Sisters of Khan to fool them. That's not where we're at, is it? In the 1970s, it was very different. And this just seems to be sexualizing a male character. You could say there's irony in that, but that's not progressive. That's just saying, well, it happened for women in the past, now we do it for men.
That's very common now in media, is sexualizing of the men. It's one of the reasons why I stopped watching Dancing with the Stars. Your version of Strictly Come Dancing is because they're practically groping the men all the time on the show, but you couldn't do that to the women. But you could go up there and grope the chestless, the shirtless guy and pinch his butt, but you couldn't do that to the woman.
Wow.
Not to mention the fact that they want us to see, it's like, if it's offensive to somebody, fine, whatever. But they want, like, say, a Shouty Gatwa, like, look at that energy right there. He's putting off a certain vibe, a certain type of energy. They want us to retool the way we see a masculine man. They want us to think that, and you know what I'm saying. And no insult to people. I got plenty of friends that are flamboyant. I mean, I don't give, it's cool. It's a good character trait. But I mean, we're talking about Doctor Who. You know what I'm saying? And
you're saying they want us. That they want us. Who is they?
We don't know their names.
Russell Davies? Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, in this case, yeah. On the micro of the macro, definitely.
Can I just put in for a second, because Sean, Review It Yourself, has just asked me in two different ways, and I wanted to say, yes, my understanding is from Entertainment Weekly that those two photographs there are costumes in the new series. I think maybe season 2, but yes, that is my understanding. You may have seen
already filming.
Sorry,
yes.
They're already filming too. Okay.
Yeah.
They filmed like six of them so far, I think.
Yeah, I think they're filming today. Actually, there's new.
Yes, they figured they better hurry the hell up and get it done before the episode started airing, and they see what they got.
If everyone will check out Doctor Who filming locations on Twitter /X, that guy right there is on top of everything.
Yeah, there's a new video today. And because I wasn't so sure about the white outfit, but in the kilt dress, whatever you want to call it, skirt, whatever you want to call it, he is definitely portraying the Doctor in that little bit they have for Entertainment Weekly, where he's trying to reset the clock, and it was charming because again it shows the sonic screwdriver not working necessarily. He's like slapping it, and then he gets the clock to do what he wants to do, and he kind of walks up to the camera, and kind of brushes his shoulder like, "Yeah, I got it."
Can I just say one thing about this costume, especially, and I'm going to come to the twerking now because we've kept our thread waiting. But we said earlier on about stereotypes and being careful about that, and you can't generalize. Look, I'm sorry, but especially the outfit on the left. Well, actually, both outfits. If you're wearing a skirt or you're wearing tight outfits like that, in a kind of feminine outfit, this is the worst gay stereotypes going, and I'm offended by that. Because, we're going backwards, a bit like with the race discussions. I feel as though we're going backwards in time. And when you dress your male hero character in a feminine way, and he is the first openly gay Doctor, you're actually falling into stereotypes. That's not progressive.
Or falling into the sexual fantasies of Russell Davies. I don't know.
Allegedly.
For entertainment purposes only.
But yeah, I mean, I just think this is why I hate being lectured to by people who think they know better, but then right in front of you make massive mistakes. Best quietly introduce something, quietly do your work, and let your merit count. But I do find this is an interesting one because, again, what's this got to do with Doctor Who? Is it the storyline?
Right.
Is it a great narrative arc that we need to notice the two words that are repeated? Pushing. We are pushing a gender message. We are pushing society. Why don't you just get on with a good program and stop challenging, pushing, provoking, triggering?
Well, Millie Gibson did say they were going to be approaching some controversial issues.
Yes.
didn't she? So
She
is
did.
this one of them?
Well, yeah, I totally agree with you. We're having good fun here, and even Brandon's joined in. Planet of the Twerkers. We've had Genesis of the Twerkers, the Twerk
Our
Monster.
Metro Doctor has some of the best titles.
Yeah, we've got Twerk Flight.
The chat's moved on. I didn't even notice that was going on.
Oh God! I mean, honestly, we've started something now.
For the Twerks Day, I love
I
it.
did promise them one twerk.
Retro Doc beating that. Here you go.
John brought a chick
this
over to
chat
his house
is
one
great.
time and showed her twerk lash.
Yeah. Yeah, it didn't go down well as I expected, to be honest. Mate.
So this
More
is
work in
what
the gym.
This is what we've been building to, I think, for many people, and I think this is what's put people over the edge. That's what I'm going to put into the universe. I need the Doctor to have a big fierce dance routine that like destroys a monster with twerking or maybe some death drops. And that's what will drop the monster. And hence why I made my reference to Brain and Morbius. That's not what the Doctor does. The Doctor outthinks.
Come on,
Right.
Brendan.
What in
I mean-
the world does this have to do with Doctor Who?
I think you're all being a bit OTT. If you go back and watch the Claws of Axos, you clearly see the Doctor defeat the aliens and Axos by twerking against them and against the ship. You know, this is obviously established in the history of the show.
I'm going to be distracting. Please join in on the twerking, but everybody in the thread, the keeper of twerking.
Keeper twerking.
This is going to be a cheat hope.
I mean, but you never know nowadays, so that's why we're taking it serious. 10 years ago, we would just have laughed at it.
And this is the problem. Doctor Who's becoming a blooming joke. It's a bit like when we had Ken Dodd in it and all the rest of it. And I love Ken Dodd, but not in Doctor Who. The Twerk of the Rani. Oh, that would be a good one with Kate O'Mara, wouldn't it? The Twerk of the Rani.
How would you get her back for that?
We should try. We should try.
Twerking in the library.
Don't give them ideas.
Yeah, no silence in the
Join
library.
us.
Doesn't anyone read anymore, Sean? Twerk in the library. You see, you wouldn't meet anyone in the nightclub. You'd go to the library and just watch them twerking.
Not at my local
All
library.
the times have changed.
Not here. Don't blame us.
No, you just smell pot outside my local library and two people talking about needing to get some more and who their dealer is.
I think we're now going to figure out exactly what he does when he first meets the Daleks, aren't we? Just by that twerking. That's going to be his introduction to the Daleks. Just twerking against their frame.
It's not going to be the sensor lights anymore. It's going to be the twerk lights.
But the Daleks have two prominent features, and he's twerking. You could have a health hazard.
You could.
Very much so. It's pretty much guaranteed. I'm sure we're going to get a sing off, so they might as well just add a twerk off in it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a hard word, exterminate. Get into lyrics, though, isn't it? Exterminate. I mean, it's going to be a real hard one. That Murray Gold will be working so hard. I'm sorry, we're getting so the twerker fan rock, the trial of the twerkers. That'll be a good one. The twerking angels and the robots of twerk. I mean, honestly, it could be a series. This, but yes,
Don't give them ideas.
No.
I think I've got them. Well, Geek Rambles, good to see you.
twerk dilemma.
Good to see Deep Rambles, but come to my local library, babes. She's up for it. She's up for it. And the twerk dilemma. Yes, we've got a twerk dilemma tonight. Although Archer Collins says we could say twerkinate. Oh, that's hard to do that.
Let's twerkinate. Let's twerkinate.
Oh God!
Delete.
Do you know what you've done now? Every single person that is going to watch these episodes, they are going to be watching the episodes just to wait for him to twerk in every episode. Now.
Oh, and he'll do a spin and a pirouette and oh God!
I think we need to see Brendan twerk. Go ahead, Brendan, twerk for us.
He
has been practicing.
Well, it can be dangerous. He could hurt somebody. Apparently,
he'd get an eyeful. But
Thomas Twerker. The Thomas Twerker. I promise you, it'd have been a better story than the Timeless Children.
The ultimate twerk. My God, would you? I'd pay to be front row for that. Twerk the Dice Towers and the Timeless Twerker. Oh.
Yeah.
And then you've got the twerks of Wen Cheyenne.
The horror of twerk rock.
Oh,
yeah.
It's all anyway. So
the twerker felt the earth.
yeah, the
that one's the best. That is, yeah.
Yeah. The twerker that fell to earth and landed on a prominent. But oh look,
Listen, Shouty, there are better ways for your doctor to go. Please don't twerk.
Oh no! Does he want to? Why did he say? Now look,
maybe it's quite an intense one that triggers a regeneration. Yeah. Quite a bad.
Regeneration. Oh, it'll come from this.
I'm going to be fair, and I'm going to say. And I mean it, that Shouty is going into this phase of lots of interviews. I get it, and it's exciting. God, can you, anybody in the thread or on the panel, imagine being picked to be Doctor Who? Fantastic. Yeah. And I can imagine him being exuberant and excited and enthusiastic and full of passion. And maybe in the way he does that, he said this humor. Do you know what I mean?
We weren't there when he said it.
Yeah, does he really mean that he's going to do a big fierce dance routine, destroys a monster with trucking? Or does he? I have to say, I did think they were going to do that with the Jodie Whittaker Doctor, not twerks, but I thought she was going to use her feminine wiles, that she would have to do things slightly differently. But they didn't go there, did they? Chris Chibnall dropped the. But is anyone reading more into this? We've had a good laugh, but is anyone reading more into this?
I just think this is humor. And again, we're taking everything so serious. We're having a good laugh at it. And Shouty is a very excitable and very positive. And oh my God, this is what I'm doing. And I can see maybe this coming out as a joke or humor.
Yeah, he may be a little oblivious to him. It's like a lot of us. We always think we're funny or we get what we're trying to say. So maybe he is kind of messing a little bit, or maybe he kind of feels the safety to get out there by saying some controversial things.
We're not seeing the video of him laughing or smiling and going.
Right. You just got the words.
But look at this: the twerking Slovene farting in an episode. That would be just so bad.
That would be awful.
That would be disaster.
I actually, sorry, Brendan. I actually agree. I actually agree with Michelle. I think he did say it out of excitement and a jest. But the thing is, if Disney actually hear that, they actually weren't they in charge of She-Hulk? Wasn't there a twerking scene in She-Hulk?
Yeah.
Don't speak too soon. Don't speak too soon.
Are you trying to say, Rachel, that we're going to have a She-Hulk Doctor Who crossover?
I'm hoping not.
No.
You're going to get Shouty like twerking with Stormzy or somebody.
Regardless of some of the ridiculous things that he said, he does seem excited about it. And I'm actually really happy for him.
Yeah.
And he has been absolutely charming and good to the fans. And so I'm a little disappointed with some of the things he said, but I find him charming. I'm looking forward to this era just to see something different. It may not be something we may like. It may not be something that's recognizable but I like this first episode. My mom thinks he's charming. There's something infectious about him. So maybe being in the room when he said this is completely different.
What I'd like to know is is whether Walkie can you twerk?
Well, that's right. Come on, Mr. Brennan.
Can I just say before he speaks again? Shall we watch this? How can a puppet twerk without giving something away? I'm really intrigued. So go on then, twerk.
This is twerking, Mr. Brendan.
Well, show us your backside then. Go on.
It's gone down a dark.
Wait a sec.
It's gone down a dark
he's
road
gonna
tonight.
cheat now,
Isn't
he's
it?
gonna cheat. I think there were problems there.
The only thing I have a good twerking mechanism.
Mechanism, I tell you.
Not bad. As someone who's studied musical theatre, I'll give you an 8 out of 10.
Rachel.
You have Millie Gibson and the TARDIS trying to teach the ladies dance moves to the doctor, and including a lesson of twerking, and she goes, "No, don't." You know.
So now we can give him a gold star and kill him in Earth Shock.
Oh, no, don't.
He's not a mathematical genius. He's a twerking genius.
Now it's past your bedtime. Go on then. Off you go. Twerk off.
Okay. Good night, all.
Night.
Yeah.
That's an
missing
image
you
we won't
already.
forget.
Why is he in my house?
My eyes. I have to throw out these contacts. The things that they have seen.
I know. I can't sleep after this. I mean, I have problems. So it causes domestics. I'm going, did you really go there? Anyway, there we go. A little bit of fun. I think the panel aren't taking Shouty seriously on that one. We think he was a bit exuberant. It did get a whole load of chaos on Twitter, didn't it? Brandon, I know you were talking about it on the Culture Council. What was your conclusion?
I don't know. There's just a lot of cussing. I mean, it's like, I think, I was okay with Shouty at first. I thought, I don't care, he's black or gay, and I thought, well, he's got a decent aesthetic. I was cool with like that initial kind of 70s outfit they first gave him, the black, or not black, but the brown leather coat and the polyester looking outfit. Hey, it's fine with me. But he may just be joking and picking around, but I think he probably shouldn't go around. The thing that got me was like the white mediocrity thing. I'm tired of hearing it. I don't want to hear about black mediocrity. I don't want to hear about it either. If you want to talk to me about some human mediocrity, okay, cool, let's sit down. But that's kind of that was my kind of final thought. I was like, hey, if that's the way you want to be, all right.
So let's okay. We won't go too heavy. The sense sphere, good panel. We tend to have a sense of perspective. We try that our best. I think this was serious though. We've got an Instagram from Russell Davies saying landslide at the top, and then he's attached it to the Guardian newspaper, a bit left-leaning, Sunak accused of full-on assault on disabled people, and then Russell Davies has typed, one day, just one day, these blah, 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 vote them out. Anyway, I'm not discussing that. I don't want too much politics in Doctor Who, but you can see where RTD is. But RTD did give an interview too, and it's in many, many different variations, but ultimately, what did he say? Controversial canon change is the spine of the whole show.
Oh my God, they stole my thing. I said that the canon itself was the spine of the whole show. I haven't seen this. But...
I haven't
seen this either. Why is Russell Davies making profane political statements?
Oh, he's done loads.
Davis, and that's what they all do now. To be honest.
So there's no safety net? There's no team to control somebody?
No,
to prevent something like this?
Oh hell no, because shit, Greg. Shoot. If they did try to, they probably lose their job. You know what I'm saying? Like if some executive producer spoke up, say, hey, I mean, they could have been cool about it, but be like, hey, we can't have that around here. It's not progressive enough. And hey, you just happen to be white and straight. See you.
And for balance as well, he was saying this sort of stuff in the 2005 era. So because
we were going to be more predisposed to.
And I'm not surprised he's coming out with this, but again, this goes back to what I said at the beginning. Whoever it is, not just Russell T Davies, whoever it is, something terribly bad has happened at the BBC where there is no checks and balances anymore.
Oh, you think?
People can, yeah.
I mean, it's everywhere. It's everywhere from the top.
like I said to you, my dad worked at the BBC. In his time, this wouldn't have been happened. Even down at local news level, they'd stamp it out. You know, they'd say, no, let's pull it. Now, they just seem to be able to do whatever they want.
Well, let's go. Come on, we're Doctor Who fans.
Wow.
The politics is distracting us, gaslighting. Let's get back to it. RTD says the spine of the whole show now is going to be that controversy, which was the timeless children, the foundling storyline. As he says in my orange bit at the bottom, he's keeping it, he's building on it, he's made it the spine of the next show. And so basically he says both Ruby and the Doctor will be curious about their origins and their similar histories as foundlings that will loom large. It will be the spine of the whole show. And Ruby Sunday, despite all those rumors, is important to that. So are we happy as fans to say, remember when RTD was coming back, I was actually quite chuffed because actually I thought, oh, we might get back to 2005. And we'll go as far away as we can from Timeless Children. And he'll be clever, like Time War was a nice reference to cover for lots of things. Oh, no. He's actually going to help his friend out. We're going down deeper and deeper into Timeless Children. Is there a future?
Oh, my God.
I'm looking at the acceptance level of grief now. At this point, it is what it is. And... well, come on, you knew where we were going when they announced the episode called The Space Babies. You knew where that's going.
Well, we did say, apart from Sutek, we did say, oh God, if I've predicted Sutek and it ends up being Mary Allen or something. But we did say
Ruby's actually a space baby, like I predicted.
Yeah, and she's
probably one of the Timeless Children.
They're all Timeless Children. All the space babies are Timeless Children. But, oh, look, this is RTD's better than this. I'm going to help my mate out. You don't make Doctor Who or any professional program to help your mate out. You do it creatively, cleverly. And I'm sorry, that no fan who I know is saying we want more Timeless Children.
Didn't he go back on what he said as well?
Well,
because didn't he say he was just he wasn't gonna like make it
sitting in the middle, wasn't he?
Yeah. I felt like he wasn't gonna focus on it.
Well, there might be a clever way of doing it, but he's definitely going on to the foundling thing. Now, the Doctor Who is not a foundling; he's a Time Lord.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
And oh my God, I don't know. I can't remember.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying. I always do try and be fair. I don't like to just kick in, but the Doctor's not a foundling. He's got a race. He's a Gallifreyan. It's well established. I think every Doctor Who fan was comfortable with that.
Also,
right. you don't explain who the Doctor is. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Rachel.
Oh yeah. I was just going to say, also, can we go back to a time just for like one series, maybe two, where the companion isn't directly involved with the, you know, the main cause as to why a storyline exists?
Yeah.
When was that? 1984 was that? It's going back a bit.
Well,
because even Ace wasn't she? Ace was key.
Ace. Yeah, I was going to say, I think it was Ace that was really the first one, wasn't it?
She was, yeah.
Yeah, well, which would have been okay if they just did it once or twice or every so often. Yeah,
it's a
every so often. Story thing, but not every flipping series every season.
Well, even if you think Turlough, we mentioned Turlough before. Turlough was a trilogy, and he was the problem, wasn't he?
Yeah, but then it goes back to the Doctor.
Yeah.
Well, obviously the Doctor's not a problem, but you know.
Oh, Archer Colin, no. The space babies aren't just timeless children; they're bi-generated timeless children.
Oh no, that was. No. Didn't we say that they were like other versions of the
something, Archer? Though I think
we can't afford childcare. We can't afford it. It's too expensive.
Yeah. Well, you just see them all sort of piloting the TARDIS going forward, don't you?
God,
little babies pressing the controls.
Oh, I wanted baby monsters.
Yeah.
You had them with them little fat blobs. I've forgotten their name. What were they called again? With Smith and Jones.
Adipose.
They were like little babies.
No, it wasn't adipose, was it?
Yeah, the adipose, the little white doughboy looking things that went around.
I could do one of them.
It's partly because you're tired. You're giving them almost a free pass on this Timeless Children, like, aren't you?
Well, there was a
No.
fan of it. I actually saw somebody that liked the Timeless Children on Twitter. I think it was somebody in
Do they exist?
Paducah, Kentucky,
Sorry.
or something like that. Somebody said that they liked it.
Did you see their face? Do they exist? Are there?
I mean, I'm sure there's some people out there that were
There
fine
are,
with it.
so
you know.
too.
Yeah.
You know, and at this point, I'm like so far past it. It's going to be there. It's going to stay there. There's nothing you can undo it. You can't put that. Pandora has opened her box. You can't put disaster and pestilence back. He's willing to do something better with it, which he could have potential to do. We'll see. But then when you see things like, you know, the space babies, I don't need to be Miss Cleo to know where it's going.
Oh, God. I mean, honestly, we've seen every room in the TARDIS. We obviously need a facility to change the nappies and everything. There's going to be a kind of little baby changing station in the TARDIS now. It's going to be a problem. I really just, it's getting domestic. As I said, Doctor Who is not soap opera, and we're going into this kind of domestic shenanigans. Right. Okay. Shall we try and cheer ourselves up? RTD did mention something to do with Doctor Who properly. He did. It wasn't just the time of children. He did. Yeah. He actually mentioned that he's going to rest the Daleks.
Yay.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. About
I
time.
Don't want them anywhere near what he's got in store.
I still stand by what I said. You know, Doctor Who is not Doctor Who without the Daleks. You take the Daleks away, then you ain't got Doctor Who. Obviously, you can't take the Doctor away either, but they do need to be rested. They are overused currently.
Yeah, if we can avoid Daleks with pronouns, please do.
But I think he's lying.
Why do you think
the
so?
double bluff.
Oh,
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
They may not be in
give us
season
a
1, but
McGuffin.
will be in season 2. I mean,
no,
that's like
he wouldn't lie.
Yeah. But you think about it. When was the last time that he wrote for the Daleks? That would have been, what, over 10 years ago. I bet he's itching to do a Dalek story again.
Well, I
I
wouldn't
hope
like
he doesn't
it.
see him as a wheelchair.
Yeah, there are 3 things that need to be rested: the Daleks, the Cybermen, and the Master.
And
Just
some,
for now.
and some would argue the Doctor and give the blooming show a rest until somebody gets a good idea. Because
Omega. Give me Omega.
we'll get Brandon going. Brandon wants all the Time Lords back.
Yeah, give me some good Gallifrey
yeah.
stuff. Hey, I don't even care if it's like in those Cartmel kind of book things in the New Adventures where like basically the Time Lords had like a split between being religious when they went to being actual Time Lords with Rassilon, and they were cursed in these books where they couldn't have children, and so they had to be like genetically loomed is what they call it. So you're loomed instead of being born. I would take that over this whole foundling timeless child stuff.
Yeah.
Sounds very.
It might be better if it actually was rested at this point instead of having this very small group of people causing damage to it. Maybe it actually should be rested.
And also on the Dalek one as well. What does the panel and the thread think? When was the last good, well-written Dalek story?
Probably Donna's one.
Journey's End, Stolen Earth. That one.
Yeah.
That
I would say Dalek.
Yeah, I was going to say 19 years ago. It was around 05.
that just.
I mean, yeah, it's hard to be argued. Like the episode that everybody's going to agree on, probably Dalek.
I suppose Dalek is like fundamentally back because obviously I think they sort of really undid Donna's storyline, didn't they?
I mean, I have enjoyed Dalek stuff that they've done since, but I always go back to that. But that was my personal introduction to the Daleks too.
That's one Dalek, isn't it?
Yeah. And Into the Dalek too. So I'm just looking at the thread. Asylum of the Daleks. We've got 2 votes now for Into the Dalek. Dalek is mentioned. Can I just say, I did enjoy the Dalek story. And 2005, I think for every Doctor Who fan was just hit. And you thought, oh, I'm happy with this. Actually, again, in retrospect, the thing I didn't feel comfortable with the Dalek was when you added that human element. A Dalek has no emotion, and please stop dabbling, because that opened up, as you know, Manhattan later, hybrid, and playing games with Daleks. Daleks like to be pure. We know where it's going. Stop dabbling with them. And since when? God, how many people have touched a Dalek and nothing's happened? And then suddenly Rose touches the Dalek and suddenly it gets her genetic stuff.
I mean, I do like the way they wrote it though, and they said, look, you know, it drained off her time travel energy from the vortex to do that, which created a mutation. So I like the way they wrote that, but I just love the fact that they set it up. Just one Dalek is absolutely brutal, and it will literally wipe out the entire United States if you don't find a way to stop it. And it's clever, and then you get to part in other ways, and then they tee it up to say, right, you've had one, now there's 500,000 of them.
What did you make of the Cult of Skaro?
I was okay with it. I think I would rather have seen them a bit more before they did the Daleks in Manhattan and they did the human mutation. I didn't want that. I loved all of that Dalek sec and that side of it. I think they should have been around a lot longer. But yeah, Dalek for me is still at the top.
We've had a shout out for Remembrance, of course. The first moment they come up the stairs, Resurrection. It's a funny one, isn't it? In some ways, I feel as though we haven't had a good Dalek story for quite a long time. And even if we said Dalek, we're going nearly 20 years ago. Yeah. And there've been a lot of Dalek stories. And so, yes, the idea...
Because the Daleks, they've become too kind. If somebody wants to actually see the sheer terror of the Daleks, read the Dalek annuals by Terry Nation. And see what the Daleks were actually intended to be. They were extremely violent, and there was lots of killing. And I guess we just can't have that on TV anymore these days.
Yeah. Well, you have to. I'm sorry, you have to, because obviously Shouty was actually saying as part of his thing, let me just get myself right. I'll get myself right in a minute. It's 3 hours. He said as the Doctor, he would be so angry if he didn't face the Daleks. Now, I think that's fair enough. You know, you can't be Doctor Who without facing the Daleks. Maybe not in season 1 or season 2, although I do grant John that this might be a double bluff. But it is a problem, isn't it? Because if Davros is a problem, the Daleks as a travel machine are a problem because it's a mutant inside. So it's a glorified War Machine wheelchair. So basically, he set himself up for a mess here because you can't have a Dalek without insulting people.
Yeah, and we'll end up with what we have in Daleks of Manhattan.
Oh,
yeah.
I didn't like that. I didn't like that one. That's when I didn't. Like.
No, I don't.
No,
my favorite.
No, it wasn't great.
I mean, I'll when I watch throughs, of course, I'm gonna hit it and watch it, and it's okay, but it's not. I just didn't. I don't know. I didn't like what they did with like the Daleks fusing, and I don't know. I just didn't like it. And of course, and then there was like the terrible, the real pretty girl that was in it that loved the pig man. Her fake New York accent. It was awful.
Yeah, the pig and the showgirl. Yeah.
Yeah.
So after all our discussion tonight, and thank you for everybody sticking with us, and we're trying our best, and please do. So Shouty Gatwa on board for Doctor Who season 3. He did say in all his interviews, he's got no idea, no plan. I just know that I'm loving it, and my love for it is growing. And there was another quote I haven't got there, but does seem to hint that he just wants to do something creatively different between. And so you don't say between unless there's something after season 2. So the talk is Shouty Gatwa is up for season 3 already.
Really?
Standard stock response, though, isn't it? From an actor.
What was all the rumors with Millie Gibson? Like, none of that makes sense now either. Like with her rumors of her being fired, it don't look like that's really the case. So maybe that was just misinfo.
No, he has said she's key to the 2-season arc.
Yeah, so that's really strange. Yeah.
I remember asking Rachel ages ago, and Rachel, as we were discussing shows back, weren't we? We said, if she's not being allowed to say anything, there's all those non-disclosures, but surely her agent, or surely there's a press release that would have been kinder to her, unless she hasn't left.
Absolutely.
Maybe it's part of the story, and they're keeping it secret for some reason.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I think I said it last week that there's a potential that some of these stories that have just been released recently were actually done in advance before they were given the green light to go ahead. So that might be it. But we did know that she was doing, I think it was 2 episodes of the second series.
I think it's 4.
Oh, is it 4 now?
Yeah, yeah, I think so.
They make up
I'll
their
raise you
mind.
5. No, yeah. I mean, it's all.
I still think it's damage control,
Yeah.
without a shadow of a doubt. And you know, I'm not a specialist in it as well, but I was quite interested with the body language in those 2 images because she's always looking like she's trying to edge away from shooting. Yeah, which
I noticed that.
Which, and you know, someone said to me, they said, "Oh, but you know, they're all together, smiling, having fun." Well, they're actors, and it's a official photo for the production, so it's going to be like that, isn't it?
And
go on, Rachel.
Like I said in the past, I really do think that even if she wasn't fired or whatever's happened, they still should have come forward at the time. One of them, don't get her, because she couldn't say anything, and actually at least defended her. That was unfair.
Yeah.
Leaving her to that.
Yeah,
that doesn't do anyone's mental health any good either.
Yeah, it's been startling how poorly the ad campaign or publicity for this relaunch has been conducted. For somebody that we think in the past has been smart on media savviness, this has been shockingly poor. Because again,
Michelle, have you seen any ad campaign here in America on Disney? Because I haven't.
Except for your last, we should be talking about the look at the Times Square. The Times Square that they were just released yesterday.
Okay.
That is what we should be talking about. We shouldn't be talking about behind the scenes drama and what the definition of twerk is.
Yeah, I hate that I didn't come along in YouTube sooner when there were like good things coming along, like good things to talk about. That's what I want them to give us something good, man. But
yeah,
I mean,
they seem determined not to.
Twerking wasn't enough, mate.
We see 2005.
What the definition of is
need a bit more than a twerk.
You see Chris Eccleston, who you would never get twerking, would you? He's a serious actor. They
mentioned Dr. Story right there.
And they showed you in the trailer, without killing the program, that you saw a bit of Big Ben, you saw a Dalek. They give away the Dalek reveal, and they give you tasters. It was about the program. It was exciting. When David Tennant was the Doctor, equally had some really good trailers. Some of them were kind of dramatized trailers, weren't they? So you had a nice bit of dialogue, sometimes with Donna saying he's out there somewhere and all the rest of it. And it was all about the story. It was all about that. It wasn't about all this other stuff. So whether this is a master plan because they don't want to give anything away, or whether nowadays actors and showrunners have a sense of entitlement and they feel as though they can say what they want.
Yeah, the same showrunners.
Yeah, and I've said before, you go back to 2005 and you look at that trailer where he says, "Do you want to come with me?" And you've got the underpass and you've got the flames chasing him as he's running into the TARDIS. And then you get the music and it's got like the time blur and he's going up to the console. And they did one with Rose as well. When I saw those, I was buzzing for Doctor Who. I could not wait to get to that first episode because what they said is clever, trip of a lifetime, and it was. I enjoyed every moment of that first season when it came back. Now I just don't get that. I just don't get anything from those trailers. And I'm not sure I blame them exclusively. I think it's a blame for the whole industry where trailers now are very, very bland. They all seem very much the same. There's nothing different about them.
There's an interesting point here. There's a couple. So the trailer states it's tone right from the off. Show me the loving. Yeah. Douglas Smith, I'm assuming America, the Disney marketing for Doctor Who is non-existent. I see no difference between this series and the last with Whittaker. I don't know if our Americans think there's any difference in the marketing.
It's not really super marketed over here.
No.
I haven't
don't
seen
know that
anything.
it ever has been anyway. I don't think
Yeah.
it's ever been all that largely marketed over here. Maybe during the Matt Smith era, and they would advertise the heck out of it on BBC America, but that's fairly specific place to do it.
Right.
Okay, Douglas. Well, good to see you on our side of the pond. Right. Okay, then. Well, since we've had fairly hit and miss news tonight and discussion, we're all going to go and buy these, aren't we? My one brief merchandise item. Who's going to buy them? I'm not, because I don't
am.
like.
I am
I
going to
will.
buy them, and in fact, I'm going to interview one of these authors next week. So
Which
yeah,
one's that? Which one's
I'm
that?
not going to say. Not
Oh.
gonna
Yeah, keep it a secret, but yeah, that's cool, man. I would read one of them to
a good
review it.
writer.
I was teeing you up.
I'm
Yeah,
a sucker for Doctor Who books. That's just my weakness.
Yeah, I think I would try it out. Just like, I told you, I went and pre-ordered from the place I get what little new comics I read. I just get them mailed to me from this place out in Oregon. And I went and pre-ordered that little mini series from the comics. And then I saw them advertise this. And like my first inclination was to kind of, throw shot upon it. But then I thought, well, you know what? I'm going to read one of them to see what if it's good. You know what I'm saying? So I thought, well, I'll read one of them, see how it is, see if I like it or not, and be honest about it if it is.
I just want the targets back. I really don't.
Oh yeah, me too, man.
That's me. So we've gone over it. Hopefully we've given credit to those who stick with us. So thank you very much. Rachel, before you leave, do you want to shout out your channel?
Yes, come over to my channel, chat about it, don't shout about it, Rachel. We cover a lot of spicy stuff over there. And I could get in trouble for tomorrow's video, but I don't care.
Oh, is it out yet? Have you got it ready? Oh, we're all going to tune in now.
It's right off, isn't it?
And so, Brandon, do you want to give a shout about your channel?
Yeah. If you go to the search bar, put in @CulturePapa, subscribe. We do a show every Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern. It's 8 p.m. in GMT time in England, but it's English and American people. We just like to talk. We talk about all kinds of stuff. We're all Doctor Who fans. We're all kind of nerds. We like video games, just a lot of things. People from different backgrounds. We like to come together and just hang out. It's like when you go to the gas station, there's those old men that are just sitting there talking and reading the paper. That's like us. We just stream it. So yeah, come by, subscribe, and see us next Saturday at 3 or catch the replays.
Well, you invited me once, and I've never been invited back. And maybe I talk too much.
I'm waiting. No. Actually, it's funny. It's funny. When you were on there, we've all said we want to bring you back, but I'm waiting on when Doctor Who comes back. That's why I want to bring you in. But we've had a lot. Let's see, Rachel's been on there with us a bunch of times. John was on there yesterday. And
yeah, it's good fun.
I knew John was going to be a hit with the guys. Like I was like, trust me. I was like, this dude's like us, man. He's gonna be cool. He's gonna be just like Brendan, just like Rachel, right? So that's what I used. That's how I used the example. I said, just like Rachel, just like Brendan. As soon as we got done yesterday, John, I had a direct message from Tuna on Discord, and he's like, man, that John dude was pretty cool. You tell him he can come hang out with us anytime.
I'm quite emotional now, mate.
That was fun. I was watching that live as well. That was really good.
So time scales, Greg. We've been simulcasting with you. So give us.
You can watch that interview with Levine.
So go on then, give us a shout out for your channel.
Okay. Well, the Timescales is the world's largest and oldest Doctor Who review and ratings community. It lists every single Doctor Who story that ever has been, from comics to books to television episodes. And then, of course, the YouTube channel is myself interviewing people largely related to Doctor Who. And it's an interview series that studies the shared traits of people in arts and performing arts. And next week, there will be a new interview with Christopher Guard, who was in The Greatest Show in the Galaxy. And that's going to be covering his autobiography that he wrote. And there's about 100 interviews so far. And I just simply hope that people enjoy them, because I really enjoy doing them. And Brendan, thank you for having me on this panel. I really enjoy interacting with all of you guys. This is super cool.
Same, Brendan. Yeah, appreciate it.
Pleasure. And we've had some new people on the thread. I can't name them all, but thank you. Some people discovering us for the first time tonight. all I'll do as a shout out for Senssphere is this is the 4th month. There's a new show coming out this week when we will look at one news item, give you a kind of 10-15 minute digest. Look out for it. It's the Senssphere Saloon. You've had a hard day at work. You come back. I'll give you 10 to 15 minutes on one news item, and we'll kind of, analyze it and have a
In my mind, I'm picturing like Brandon in a Western. You know how they walk like a.
I'll try.
I'm wondering if he actually broke that bottle.
Yeah. Going in, asking for a sarsaparilla and a shot of Jack.
So there you go. Lots of channels out there, quality panel, lots of people. I know, Michelle, you have your own, you make your own things, don't you?
Yeah, I am on Facebook and Michelle Hamilton, and also the TARDIS Archives. I will need to update that and share this episode. I just submitted in a book, so I've been a little behind on my Doctor Who world, but you can also follow me, Michelle L. Hamilton, author, about some of my books that I do.
And John, not to leave you left out, because I know you're making stuff and you're recording stuff. You're not just going on other people's panels. You are also Celestial Chronicles.
Yeah. As you said, I've put a few recordings together. Still working on it at the moment.
Does your mic work better than Rachel's?
Yeah. I mean,
we all saw it, Rachel.
She's the legend on it. She sort of flips it in the air and does a catch.
These bloopers I've got of her now.
It's like a day out at the circus when she does that.
Yeah.
I'm working on it at the moment, and it'll be reviewing Doctor Who from 63 to 2017, but it's going to be doing other shows as well and movies. So, when it's ready, I'll let everyone know. And, you might see some familiar faces that are here right now.
Yep.
Naming their names.
And that's
you don't even know. I've not told any of you yet.
You already told me.
Yeah.
I'm just not
I'll be on it, man.
Yeah.
So we'll say good night, everyone. Thanks, everybody in the thread. Thanks to the panel. And good night, everyone.
Night.
Thank you.
Right.
Cheers. Bye, everybody.